My entitled aunt demands that I give up my PlayStation 4 to her spoiled, rotten child, saying that a man-child freeloader like me shouldn't be playing games and instead should be getting a real job. But after she said this, I decided to clap back with the ultimate insult, putting her in her place and completely devastating the family in the process. And I'm honestly not sure if I crossed the line somewhere and I just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where the original poster in this story absolutely has the greatest comeback on planet Earth. Seriously, I've got a good one cooking for you for this first one. It is a lot of fun. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and with that, let's get started. Okay, to start things off, I'm honestly stuck on this situation. I'm not sure if I should continue standing my ground or not, and this is all depending on whether or not I'm the jerk. So I really need the internet to come in clutch for this one. This situation began when I started to organize my room, and this includes the stuff I stored and have not used for years. I recovered my PlayStation 4, it was still in good condition, and during my time playing with it, I made sure with absolute certainty that I did not damage or compromise any of the device's components. My father gifted this to me, and it was the first console I ever received. It holds a sentimental place in my heart. I still live with my parents, but I pay for space and utilities, plus I contribute to expenses like the groceries or getting gas. And trust me, this detail will be very important later on. Anyways, I let my cousin take a few toys of mine, plus my gift on top of that, which is only after he went through it without my permission, but it was his birthday, so I mean, what could I do? My aunt also kind of let him go through my stuff, but said not to touch certain stuff because some of it might be like private or important to me. Well, this kid went further and found my room, which I do not know how he knew where my room was, and this is where he took my PlayStation 4 out of it and said to my aunt, "Mommy, I got a PlayStation 4," and he said it with an excited voice. Now, I really expected my aunt to try and like take it away from him and tell him not to touch stuff from somebody else's room, but she literally just looked happy and said, "Wow, now you can play it." But I then told my cousin immediately that I was not planning on gifting that to him, and I apologized for the misunderstanding to him and my aunt. And I gotta be honest, I was really holding back some of the things I really wanted to say, but I didn't want to deal with them. Well, my aunt then replied, "Well, you got him all excited, so you have to give it to him now." But then I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm really not ready to give it up. I could do other stuff with it, or perhaps even play with it, but I would need way more time to think about it." We then had an irritating exchange of asking and saying no, while my cousin was starting to cry in the corner during the party, and it was getting more intense each second that went by. Well, the true turning point was when my aunt looked at me frustratingly and said, "Well, a man-child freeloader like you should not be playing around with some consoles anymore and actually just get a job." And this is where I might be the jerk here, because I replied by saying, "Well, just because you can't control your child does not mean that you need to make it a problem for other people." She then said to me, "Are you accusing me of being a bad parent?" And she said more after this, just mostly like insults and other terrible things, but I let her finish. And then I hit her with, "Well, I know you're a bad wife," and I said it in a sarcastic voice. And when I said this, the whole room went silent. For context, she and her ex-husband split almost a year ago, and now the husband is already dating again, and according to my aunt, looking much happier, which was allegedly very unfair for her to see. My parents said to me after everybody left that I had crossed a line, and that I should have just given up the console since I was more than capable of getting a much better console, but I just don't think so. But now I'm kind of reflecting on the terrible thing I said to my aunt, and it really begs the question, am I the jerk in this situation? Do I really need to like make things right, or did I cross a line somewhere? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, I hate people like this. Because what you said is right on the money, dude. She can't control her kid and suddenly it's everybody else's fault. Instead of telling this kid, "No, you're not taking something out of someone's room. You can't have that." She looks at you and says, "Well, you're the one that got him all excited." But it's like, dude, no, he didn't. He wasn't the one who was like, "Oh my gosh, look at that. We can play that right now." That was literally the aunt in this scenario. The original poster was like, "Oh wait, yeah, no, you definitely cannot have that. That's like in my room and that's mine. You can't have it." So that first point is completely stupid. But also, dude, if you're gonna dish it, then you better be ready to take it, lady. Don't look at me and call me a man-child freeloader and not expect me to clap back in the same way the original poster did. Because holy crap, you hit her right where it hurts. Because she's doing like the classic scenario, right? She's not getting her way, so it's like, okay, time to attack. Which is classic narcissist tactic. Like, what's going on right now? So the fact that you shut her down and said, "Yeah, well, you're a crappy wife, and you're an even worse mom. See ya, loser." Like, in my opinion, this is absolutely necessary, and it's one of those like, oh, we can fight fire with fire. In my opinion, opinion, she deserved way worse than that, but maybe I'm just a bad person. You let me know in the comments. So no, you're not the jerk. This lady had it coming, dude. She came into your house and tried to steal your PlayStation, using her stupid, spoiled, rotten demon child as an excuse to take the PlayStation. So I'm really glad you stood your ground, and I think you could have been a lot meaner about this if you wanted to. And I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for putting a passcode on my iPad after I walked in on my friend going through my private photos on my tablet? Because now she's offended and says that I'm treating her as untrustworthy. And at this point, I just don't know what to make of this. Here's basically how we got here. Okay, so I have a close friend who comes over to my place a few times a week to hang out, and I usually leave my iPad on the coffee table because I use it for drawing and reading and a bunch of other stuff. I never had a passcode on it because I live alone and I didn't think I needed one. Well, a few nights ago, I went into the kitchen to make some snacks, and when I came back into the living room, I saw my friend quickly swiping out of an app. Now, I didn't say anything at first, but later that night, I checked my recently opened applications, and it showed my photo gallery had been open for 10 minutes, and it was specifically scrolled back to photos from 3 years ago. And if I'm being completely honest, I felt incredibly violated. The next morning, I set a strong password and even enabled Face ID. When she came over again and tried to pick it up and look up a recipe, she realized that she was locked out. She then asked for my code, and I just told her, well, I'm not comfortable giving it out anymore after seeing she had been through my photos. After I said that, she got very offended and accused me of hiding something and treating her like she's untrustworthy. She says that friends shouldn't have secrets and that by locking her out, I'm damaging the foundation of our friendship over a bit of harmless curiosity. So am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to make of this. Bro, your friend's an idiot. Dude, I have so many secrets from my friends, it's not even funny. First off, the way she's framing this makes it sound like, oh yeah, we're married and we're attached at the hip. But it's like, no, we're not, dude. I'm not married to you. We're not in a relationship outside of being good friends, which at this point is waning. Like, I've got secrets and things I don't want to show you, just like you've got secrets you don't want to show me. So her expecting like, oh my God, we're like best friends. That means there shouldn't be any secrets between us. Like, no, there's absolutely going to be secrets because that would be crazy otherwise. And it's so funny because she's literally admitting to going through your stuff, and she's even trying to justify it by being like, I was just curious, it's harmless. And yet when you rounded the corner with like some chips and some salsa, she was very quick to swipe out of it, almost like a kid who was caught doing something they know they shouldn't have been doing. And also, I gotta be completely honest, like, I would not feel totally comfortable going on someone else's iPad to look something up, and instead would probably just use my own phone to do that. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I have close friends who like I'm ride or die with, who I still would be very hesitant to like grab their iPad and be like, oh, let me look something up real quick. Like, no, dude, I'm not gonna use your iPad, I'm gonna use my own phone. Like, why would I use your stuff? So no, you're not the jerk. She's clearly looking at your stuff and trying to like snoop around in places she shouldn't. And it's only now that she's denied access to that she suddenly has a problem with it and is somehow trying desperately to spin this against you. But in reality, you haven't done a single thing wrong. Am I the jerk for blocking my ex-boyfriend immediately after we broke up? Because I really didn't want to risk getting back together with him again, just like I've done before. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old female and I recently broke up with my boyfriend after a relationship that had been rocky for months. We argued constantly, went in circles about the same issues over and over again, and every breakup talk somehow turned into us getting back together 2 days later. But this time, I decided I was done for real after he held me aggressively, even though he apologized for it later. We had one final conversation where we both agreed it wasn't working, and he said he still wanted to stay close and maybe reconnect later. But the problem is, I know myself. If I keep seeing him and if he sends late night text messages, or if I see him posting like nothing happened, I'll get pulled back in emotionally again. So right after the breakup, I blocked him on calls, messages, and social media. But now he told our mutual friends that I'm cold, immature, and dramatic for blocking him for no reason when the breakup was mutual. Some of them say that I could have at least stayed civil and not acted like he passed away, but I don't hate him. I just want a clean break so I can heal and move on without getting dragged back into the same cycle over and over again. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, this seemed like a really good solution to me. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your friends are like not at all in the situation you're in, so I wouldn't listen to them at all. And sure, the guy's gonna be upset about this, but also who cares? He's not your boyfriend anymore and you don't have to deal with him. And also, holy crap, anytime anyone gets physically aggressive with you you in a relationship, that is like the biggest red flag to be like, okay, gotta go, this is over. So I think cutting him off and getting a clean break was really a smart move to make, and hopefully it gives you the space to move on away from this weirdo. Today, I messed up by being obsessed with writing my signature perfectly, resulting in my boyfriend thinking that I was casting a spell on him, which definitely threw me for a loop that I was absolutely not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, to start off with a bit of background, I need to say that I'm quite a perfectionist, but only for stupid stuff like drawing my signature in the exact proportions I want. Well, because of that, whenever I'm bored, I practice and I don't stop until I draw it the way that I want. I can perfectly fill pages of this with my signature just simply out of obsession. I also like writing sometimes, but it's not really a hobby I'm passionate about, nor am I really good at, but at times it does feel good. But the situation I'm about to describe started a few weeks ago. I was in a boring class with a professor I hated, so I started writing down my signature. And this time I got it a little bit faster than usual, so it only took like half the sheet of paper for me to do it. I was happy about it, but it also meant I had nothing to do to distract myself from this horrible lesson. So I started remembering songs that I liked in my head. At one point, a specific song came to my head, sung by like a Spanish singer last Christmas. It had quite the medieval touch to it, and it also reminded me about witches' incantations when making potions. And since it was a love song, it also reminded me of my boyfriend. So I started writing down. I'm gonna translate it since it wasn't Spanish, but here's what it said. Dust of my bones, drops of my blood, I summon the witches of this coven. Let them conjure a link that tie you to me, and if I hurt you, may they come and end me. I then folded the sheet of paper and I save it inside of my notebook. And honestly, I didn't pay much attention to it after that. Well, fast forward to last night. I went out with some friends to celebrate the master's degree being over. I was going to stay at my friend's house because we were going to a town not so far away, and my boyfriend stayed home because he had to work. He had a bottle of some nice beer, so he drank a little bit. He was cleaning out the living room, and when he was going to put my notebook away, a small sheet of paper fell to the floor, and I'm sure you can imagine exactly what paper that was. And it's important to know that he was a little drunk at this point. So I came home this morning and we were cuddling all the way up until suddenly he tells me that we need to talk. Now, I was a little confused, and he said to me, hey, I found your spell. I then got more confused because I didn't know what in the world he was talking about. But then he started telling me he found a note and he thought I was into poetry and wanted to support me on that hobby. But then he saw multiple signatures. He searched on Google what it could mean, and it said that it was some kind of spell used in witchcraft to make someone love you. Then he proceeded to tell me that I didn't need spells because he loves me a lot, and that he would support me if I wanted to practice witchcraft. And when he said this, I started laughing so hard, but I also felt a little bit embarrassed. I had forgotten about that sheet of paper and I had no idea what he was talking about. Then I just told him everything about how I write down my signature like an obsession, and that I sometimes write stuff that comes to my mind, and that I definitely do not cast spells. It was a funny moment, but I really was a little embarrassed because I don't really like showing anybody these things that I write or any of my compulsive obsessions. But it all worked out because he definitely took it the right way, which was honestly the best thing that could have come out of this. Oh man, I am so glad this worked out. Can you imagine if your boyfriend was like, wait, are you a witch? Are you casting spells on me? What's going on right now? What do you mean by dust to my bones and if I hurt you, they may end me? Don't summon any witches from the coven. What's happening right now? Like, if that was his reaction, this could have been tragic. But instead, you're just practicing your signature, which, by the way, that's not weird. That's like the most harmless thing you could have been doing. There's a lot worse things that you could have, like a compulsion overdoing or like an obsession overdoing. So writing your signature is not nearly as weird as you think it might be. So I wouldn't feel embarrassed at all. But the biggest takeaway is that your boyfriend is really cool and he's supportive of you and he really cares about you. Because yeah, this could have been really bad, but thankfully it worked out pretty well. Am I the jerk for not letting my mother-in-law see our new house until she finally apologizes to me for the way she insulted me several months back? Because right now, this whole situation is becoming a lot bigger than any of us expected, and I really just don't know what to do. Here's basically what's been going on. Okay, so this has been building up for about 4 or 5 months now, but it finally came to a head. For context, my girlfriend and I have been dating for about 13 years, and my mother-in-law has always been very entitled. She's the type to argue with retail workers until they cry over a discount that she thinks she deserves. In fact, if an idea isn't hers, then she shuts it down immediately. Her husband avoids conflict at all costs, so no one challenges her except my girlfriend's sister, and those usually turn into huge fights. A few months ago, my girlfriend and I decided to buy our first home. We talked about it for months, and I brought it up multiple times with her parents. When we finally found a house we loved and decided to put an offer on, we called them just to share the news. Now, instead of being supportive, we were met with immediate hostility. It started with the usual questions of like, are you sure sure you're ready? Which is completely fair, like I understand that one. But after I explained the planning we had done, her mom brought up a car that was repossessed from me 8 years ago. She then said to me, I bet you thought buying that car was a good idea too. She then attacked my character and questioned how she could be okay with this, since apparently I don't tell her about my life. Now, just to make things clear, I'm not her child, and I'm not even very close with my own family. I don't think I owe my mother-in-law every detail of my past, especially after comments like that. I'm not perfect, but my life is far more stable than it was 8 years ago. After that call, I asked for an apology, but she refused to do so. My girlfriend and her dad asked her multiple times over the next few weeks, and yet she still refused. Eventually, she said she'd only apologize if we went to dinner, but I asked if we could just do it over the phone so I could leave if things got nasty. I declined the dinner at first, but later I agreed. And then she changed her mind and said it had been too long. During all this time, my girlfriend and I fought a lot. She is very close with her parents and usually sees them every weekend. And from my side, honestly, that felt really hurtful. But I didn't want to tell her to stop seeing her family. Well, by this point, we had moved into our house. But it's here that I told my girlfriend her mom wasn't welcome in our home until she apologized. And although she didn't like it, she still agreed with me. Well, last week, her mom got some bad medical news. And now my girlfriend says it's unfair that I won't let her mom see the house since she's really sick and might never get the chance to do so. But from my perspective, all of this goes away if she simply apologizes. I feel like I'm the only one being asked to bridge the gap and make some kind of concessions, whereas her mom is not asked to do anything of the sort. And at this point, I really need to know, am I seriously the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, in my opinion, first off, I'm gonna sound like a massive jerk here, but I am absolutely on the original poster side. Because if I was in the original poster shoes, I would hold my ground forever. I would never give an inch to this woman, especially if this is the way she acts. Her entitlement and her dismissal of this argument and refusal to apologize is not okay. She has no right to bite back at people like that and expect everyone to just be okay with it. Just because other people are conditioned to that doesn't mean that you also have to be as well. So yeah, are you dragging this out a little bit longer than other people are comfortable with? Sure. But guess what? She started it. She's the one who offended you, so she should be the one to apologize. I know for a fact I would hold on to this forever. I would never let this go. Because this kind of person absolutely deserves a taste of humble pie in my opinion. And also, let's be honest real quick, I seriously doubt this woman is sick, okay? I really think she's faking it, and based on her history, she probably made this up just to get you to apologize to her. This is a classic playbook from the manipulation manual, and I absolutely would not believe it for a second. You can send your condolences and be like, oh, I'm sorry you're sick, but guess what? You're still not coming over until you apologize. And sure, you might say oh, that's really petty, you gotta let bygones be bygones. But it's dude, she would never do the same for you. She's not willingly bridging the gap to be like, hey, I'm really sorry about what I said, I want to apologize. She's not making that effort at all. She's just saying, well, I'm sick and I'm dying. It's okay, lady, yeah, sure, and I'm the president. That's not gonna do anything for me. That's just gonna make me double down. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. I think you're absolutely making the right call, and I think it's better to stand your ground and make her apologize than to give in to some conveniently timed medical news that, honestly, in my opinion, is probably fake. Did I overreact by calling the cops on my neighbors after I saw the man of that couple literally blocking his wife with his car repeatedly in a way that was really dangerous and seemed very sketchy? Because now I'm worried that things are going to escalate from here and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I was driving up my road and I noticed a woman on the side of the road with a van beside her. At first, I thought she was just exiting the vehicle, but every time she tried to move away from the car pulled in front of her, basically blocking her from leaving the area. If she turned to go the other way, the car pulled in front of her really fast. And it became pretty clear that the woman and the man driving the car were in some kind of argument, and he was clearly preventing her from going anywhere. I was scared that he might hit her with the car. So I drove further up the road, stopped at a safe distance. I then got out of my car and I yelled to the woman, asking if she was okay. She then yelled back that she was, and my intervention seemed to give her the opportunity to actually leave. And it's here that I saw her cross the road and walk away. I then got back in my car and I looked in the rearview mirror, and that's where I saw the van coming towards me. And I gotta be honest, I thought he was gonna rear end me, but instead he just stopped and lingered behind my car. And this is when I started to get a little bit scared. I'm a small woman and I didn't know what he was going to do. So I locked my doors, I started driving away, but I definitely called 911. He drove away when he saw me starting to drive away, but then I pulled over again a bit further ahead so that I could focus on answering all the dispatcher's questions. As I was on the phone, the man in the van then pulled up right beside my car. I didn't engage with him at all and I followed the dispatcher's instructions to not roll down my window. And you know what? The entire time he just stared at me. He didn't look super angry or upset, and it almost seemed like he was trying to say, "You're really gonna do this?" Like, I just don't understand the goal of following my car and trying to talk to me like that. Like, it's just really stupid and making the situation worse for himself. I think he eventually figured out that I was on the phone with the cops, and he eventually just turned around. Our street is a one-way, and he drove towards the dead end. So I'm guessing he was like a neighbor or visiting someone who lives on our street. The cops arrived shortly after, and they handled things from there. When I came back home, I drove past the van, which was parked in front of a house on my street. When I told my partner about it, he confirmed that he was definitely one of our neighbors. So now I feel deeply uncomfortable. I just really hope I didn't escalate things unnecessarily. But also, I was genuinely concerned for the woman, which I now know was his wife. I wasn't even sure I was going to get the cops involved until he finally came towards me. So honestly, did I overreact in this situation? Should I have just minded my own business and did my own thing? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not overreacting, because I live by the rule that if I feel unsafe, or if there's something unsafe going on, or if there's something that I'm just perceiving as unsafe or dangerous or anything like that, then that to me is absolutely enough grounds for me to call the cops and have them figure it out. Like, you very well could have saved that woman's life. You don't know exactly what was going on. All you notice is that this one guy was blocking this lady with his car repeatedly, refusing to let her move, and that is scary. And I don't care who you are, that is messed up and that's not okay. Even in some kind of universe, he was joking around. Like, you don't joke about that. That's really dangerous. So I think you calling the cops was the right move. But I will say that if you are going to get involved in those kind of scenarios, you need to be prepared for people going and trying to talk to you, or confronting you in some way, or trying to intimidate you, which is exactly what this scumbag does. That's the tactic of a small, angry little man who's like, "I can't believe you caught me being mean to my wife." And trust me, the word mean is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this video, let me tell you, because if anything, he's probably mistreating her, and that's horrifying. So with that in mind, you definitely didn't overreact, and I think you did the right thing. My entitled coworker decided to take credit for my hard work on a project I have really been struggling with. So I decided to get some revenge by not only proving that I'm the one that did this work, but also exposing my coworker for the fraud that they are. Here's what happened. So I work as a software engineer, and in my team, we follow the usual process of writing code, reviewing it, testing it, and deploying it. One of my coworkers, who we will call Steve, had a habit for taking credit for other people's work in front of management. He isn't a bad developer, but he loves making it seem like he was doing more than he actually was. I am quite introverted, so I don't usually speak up in meetings unless I have to, and calling someone out directly doesn't come naturally to me, so I usually just let things slide. During a big project, I spent days fixing a complicated bug. The problem ran deep, and the fix had to work across different parts of the code. If you hadn't actually worked on it, it was pretty hard to follow. After a lot of testing, I finally got it done. At the next team meeting, before I could even say a word, Steve jumped in and started explaining my fix as if it was his. He kept saying things like, "We decided to," or even saying "Oh, our approach to this was this and that," making it sound like he was the person behind it. Well, I was really annoyed, but I kept quiet. The next day, another bug popped in the same area of the code, and our manager turned to Steve and said, "Well, since you worked on this, can you patch it?" And that's when the fun started. Steve froze. The thing is, if you didn't actually write the fix, it wasn't easy to understand how it all fit together. He had no idea where to even begin. He tried stalling, and even sent me a message explaining if I could explain the logic of the code real quick. But here's where I started to enact my revenge. I told him that I was busy at the moment and that I will catch up with him later on. But you know what? I didn't. After 5 hours of struggling, he finally admitted in the team chat and wrote something like, "Actually, I didn't write this part, but maybe if you check with the original poster, they could take a look." And I replied by saying, "Oh, of course, I'll check it out." Well, 10 minutes later, I had it all fixed up. Our manager then came over and congratulated me. We were chatting for a bit, and before heading off, he made a deliberate comment about how great it was having someone who actually understands what we are working on. And when I was told that, Steve didn't say a word. So honestly, it felt great to throw Steve under the bus, especially after he tried to take credit for my work. I love this story for so many reasons because I have run into so many Steves in my life. People who literally walk up there and say, "Oh yeah, I did the work for this. This is my credit. I'm the one that did it." And then you're sitting there like, "Okay, are you kidding me right now? This is not something you even touch for a second. Are you seriously trying to take credit for my work?" And I totally understand where the original poster is coming from. They don't want to cause any drama, and they don't don't want to stir the pot, so they're like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and see where this goes. Because generally speaking, especially in like a professional working environment, that's how I feel most of the time. Like I don't want to cause any problems and I don't want to stir the pot because, you know, I need to make rent. But thankfully, the universe had different plans for Steve because this guy got thrown under the bus in a beautiful fashion. And in my opinion, this is just karma sorting out the jerks from the people who are truly honest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting for reporting a coworker after they literally assaulted me at work? Because right now, my boss and all of my coworkers are saying that I should have kept my mouth shut. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, today I walked into my office to ask my coworkers if they wanted something to eat. And I asked this because I was grabbing lunch for myself and I just wanted to check. Well, a coworker immediately got upset that I was in there and I just took it as playful banter. But then out of nowhere, he got up angry, cussed me out, and shoved me hard in the chest and slammed the door in my face. Now, another coworker gaslit me into blaming me for the assault. So I went right to HR to report the incident since he did hurt my chest. My department boss called me and proceeded to gaslight me just as my coworker did by saying that we are a close-knit group. For reference, I just started a few months ago while they've been working there for years. My boss then said, well, couldn't this have just been talked out? Why would you go straight to human resources? But the fact is, I've always had problems with this guy before, and this was the final straw. He then ended the call by saying, well, this isn't good. So seriously, I really need to know, did I overreact in this situation? Everyone around me seems to put the blame on me, but doesn't it cross a line when a physical altercation happens? What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna say this first and foremost. The second anybody attacks you at work is the second that you need to report that immediately. This guy literally got angry because you walked in and said, hey, I'm getting something to eat. You guys want anything? And then he attacked you and slammed the door in your face. I don't care about him getting angry or cussing you out or even him slamming the door. It's the fact that he took his hands and he shoved you in the chest. Like that to me is completely unacceptable. That is where this absolutely needs to be escalated. If this was a friend or someone that I knew forever and I knew this was some kind of playful banter, then yeah, I would be like, okay, this is fine. We're just kidding around. It's no big deal. But you don't know this guy like that. You've literally been working there for like what, a few months? There is no conceivable reason why he should ever attack you like that. Like that in my opinion is crazy and I just cannot accept that for a second. And this whole BS of like, why would you go to HR first? What are you doing? Like the fact that your department boss said that to you is like unbelievably crazy. Like they really should be fired for saying that. Like I don't care if that's your friend or not. You can't attack another coworker just because they walked in a room and you didn't want them there. And in my opinion, anytime someone says, oh, we're a close-knit group, that's really just coding for like, oh, we're like a family here. And anytime anyone says that, they literally only say that so they can like get away with crap like this. And I bet you this is one of those coworkers who people have put up with for years, and you just so happen to be the only person who stepped up and said, no, I'm not going to be attacked like this. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and in my opinion, I would record everything and document everything regarding this, because at the end of the day, what happened to you was not okay, and you did not deserve that in the slightest. Today, I messed up along with the rest of my French class after we decided to write letters to a French prisoner as some kind of exercise for our French class in high school, resulting in one of the creepiest situations we've ever been in our entire lives. Here's what happened. Okay, this happened a long time ago when I was 16 years old. Our school participated in the International Baccalaureate program that allowed us to take some intense classes and finish up high school with a lot of college credits. Even if you didn't complete the entire program, the courses were great college prep. I decided my junior year of high school that I would take a French class which was completely immersive, and our teacher required us to answer everything in French. Did you want to go to the restroom or have a question about your homework? Well, you had to answer in French. She assigned the entire first chapter the first day of class due the next day. Every exercise from beginning to end, and this was like literally 20 pages. The class originally had 20 people signed up. However, the assignment left the class with only 5 of us left. With students willing to put in the work, our teacher worked hard to give us an all-around education in French. We read French novels, watched French TV, discussed French history and politics, and keep in mind, this is in the late 90s, so the internet was not readily available. I also lived in Central Appalachia, so just having this program was an amazing opportunity, but our resources were very limited. She went above and beyond to give us work that was both hard and interesting. I remember reading Asterix and Obelix comic books in French, and I once had a scavenger hunt around my school in total French directions. Needless to say, my teacher was always trying a variety of ways to keep up working on our French skills. One day, she had us reading a French magazine for translation, and in the middle of class, she tells us she has a great idea. While we were working, she was looking into the classified section section of the paper, just curious to see what is sold, who is interested in what topic, and etc. And right there, amongst all the wanted ads, was an advertisement about a Frenchman in a maximum security prison in Colorado, looking for someone to write to him in French. For the sake of the story, we'll call him Max, and it gave us an address to write to. So my teacher thought, well, wouldn't that be a great way to sharpen our French skills and writing skills? But here's where the 5 of us screwed up first. We all immediately got out our papers and began writing to this Max, no questions asked. Now, it wasn't completely stupidly on our part, and we didn't give our full names or address, but mailed from our school, which admittedly isn't much of a cover for any of us, since we are a very rural area, and it would be easy to find us. But we write our letters, which I know dates my age. If you ever wrote letters to a complete stranger, the first letter is usually introducing yourself to the receiver, telling about yourself, your life, your family, which of course we did. But do you know what we didn't do? We didn't think that a guy in prison with the ability to place an ad could be that serious of a criminal, and at first he wasn't. The first letter he wrote back was that our teacher was an angel, and our letters were a bright spot in an otherwise dark existence. He wrote about how lonely it had been without an opportunity to interact with his native language, and he eagerly looked forward to our correspondence. So our pen pal situation continued until Max decided that we needed to hear his tragic tale of woe. Keep in mind, we're high school students, so our translation skills were not professional. But what I remember from the letter went something like this. Max was just a simple man. He arrived in America to gain the American dream. He began by running a business and exporting leather goods, but found that he needed connections to get his inventory into the country. And this is where his partner enters the scene, who assured him that he can get his cargo into America without too much delay with customs. And of course, he had no idea that his partner was running illegal substances. I mean, of course, how could he? It wasn't until his business got raided that he discovered all the money he had been getting from the partner just happened to be laundered in his export business. At least that's what the FBI explained when he got arrested. So now our French class was in a dilemma. We had been writing this guy, and honestly, we hadn't given any thought as to why he was in Colorado. Even still, we certainly thought we wouldn't stumble into a mob money launderer who thought that we were angels and told us that he would eventually get out in a few years. None of us really wanted to continue this. Luckily, school was finishing, and we all agreed that it would be best if we all conveniently forgot about all of this. We also never told anybody, not out of some solidarity, but it didn't cross our minds that this was something our parents needed to know. Besides, our teacher knew. I mean, who else needed to? So our senior year starts, and our French teacher comes in and asks which one of us told Max about her birthday. Well, there were blank stares all around because we didn't know her birthday. She tells us she got a birthday card from Max at her home address, which we also didn't know about either, because while our tiny town didn't have extensive internet, apparently his prison did. Or at least that was the only logical conclusion we could come up with. So we had complete no contact with Max for the rest of the year, because we all dreaded the idea that he had the ability to find where we lived. I now teach at this same school with the French teacher, and we both marvel at the fact that she gave us the assignment of writing an unknown prisoner with no concern to our safety, and that we as students willingly participated with these letters without telling anybody. So it was on that day that I learned, just because the teacher says to do something, you might want to still think about the unintended consequences of that assignment, because trust me, it could be way worse than you're expecting. Oh my gosh, that is really scary. For starters, I really think you guys had the right intentions here, because this really did seem like a good opportunity to like practice French, but also maybe reach out to someone who's like down on their luck. But my god, the fact that this guy figured out your teacher's address and birthday, like, are you kidding me right now? That is super creepy. So yeah, this is a massive mess up, because this truly could have been way worse. Am I the jerk for not wanting to travel with my friend to Italy after she has literally been indecisive for 6 weeks about whether she's going or not? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm visiting my sister studying abroad in Italy in a couple of weeks. It's also been 6 weeks since I've booked my flights and decided the trip dates. When I first booked the trip, I asked some friends if they wanted to come with me, and most of my friends politely declined. But one of my friends, who we will call Michaela, said that she might be in for the trip but had to figure some money stuff out before deciding. And I was fine with that, as we had time. I knew Michaela for a year before this, and I wasn't sure how serious she was, but I was down to discuss traveling. Michaela and I talked about the trip here and there, and I asked multiple times about the status of her bookings. She kept saying that she is definitely coming, and even talked about specific things that we could do in Italy. However, she kept putting off actually booking anything. A month ago, she told me that she needed a few days, and she would know 100% if she was coming. A week later, she told me she could not come due to issues with getting paid at work, and then 2 weeks ago, she said she's back in again. And I was happy to have her back in, but still, as of today, she hasn't booked any flights or stay. The trip is now a little more than 2 weeks away. She has no flights, and we still haven't booked our Airbnb stay for 5 of the nights. I messaged her yesterday morning, asking her status about being ready to book things. I said I was feeling nervous that it was so last minute, and this is not how I usually do things when traveling. She responded that she's serious about coming and just needs until Friday to decide if she's coming, and if so, we could book everything by Monday. By the way, the Monday she's referring to is the Monday the week before the trip. I then hesitated and I said, okay, but you have until Friday. Well, later last night, I thought about it all and I made a decision. I told Michaela that it might just be better if I go alone. I said that I'm going there to see my sister and she could accommodate me, and that it would be better for my wallet than booking Airbnbs with her. I mean, times are tough. Now, I expected that she would be fine with me saying this since she hadn't booked anything yet and hadn't even decided whether she wanted to go. But Michaela was very upset. She was mad by me saying that I was going to go solo and said it was weird for me to bring this up now. She said that it was messed up that I told her earlier in the day that it was okay for her to decide until Friday and then change my mind. But my position is that I waited 6 weeks for her to book the trip. How can she be mad at me for not waiting 3 days until Friday? She's acting like the victim somehow. She said it seems like I don't want her to go, but to me it feels like she's not serious about going because she hasn't booked a single thing to commit to this trip in 6 weeks. So after this conversation, which definitely did not go great, she called me a bad friend. She then unfollowed me on Instagram and removed photos that were posted of us. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think this should have been cut off a long time ago. Michaela is being super selfish. She's been leaving you on the hook for what, 6 weeks now? Like, she needs to figure out if she's going or not and then just commit to whatever that is. If she's going, fantastic, come along. But if you're not going, then just tell me so I can move on and get this going. And she seriously wants to be like, oh yeah, it's fine, we can book the Airbnb a week before. Like, what are you talking about? No, we're not doing that. That is so irresponsible and so like last minute. And I'm sorry, but if I'm traveling internationally, I'm gonna figure out all these details way in advance. I'm not gonna let anybody make me wait until the week before just to figure out where I'm gonna stay and how I'm gonna get around. So no, this friend had so much time to figure this out, it's not even funny. And it's ironic that she would be like, wow, you changed your mind last second. How dare you say I had 3 days? But it's like, dude, no, you've had 6 weeks and you still can't figure it out. And that, in my opinion, is not your problem, and you have every right to move forward without Michaela being involved. Today, I got a car dealership shut down after they tried to sue me for a car that I wrecked because of their negligence. And I'm honestly still blown away by the way they treated me, and I'm glad that they ended up losing their license. Here's what happened. A number of years ago, I was test driving a used sports car. I got about 1 block from the dealership and got into an accident, and it was partially my fault. The brakes were spongy, and the stop ended up with the front end of the car sticking into the intersection about 2 feet. It was a residential area, and the only car on the cross street took off the front end of the car I was driving. So I make a police report and I report it to insurance, and my insurance company says not to worry about it. But a couple of months later, I get a letter from the dealership saying I owe the price of the car and that if I don't pay it, they're gonna sue me. But here's the thing, I had already talked to the insurance company. But once I informed the dealership I had already talked to the insurance company and knew the payout was more than the sales price of the car, I never heard from them ever again. I then contacted the government office that licensed car dealerships, and I told them exactly what happened. And thankfully, in a twist of fate, they ended up losing their license. Holy crap, I can't imagine test driving a car that literally has spongy brakes. Dude, are you kidding me right now? If you literally have a car that's up for sale, wouldn't you make sure the one thing that needs to be working is there working in the car? Like, the original poster could be dead right now. This could have been so bad. And then for these people to come back and be like, you're gonna pay for the car or else we're gonna sue you. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? The car you were trying to sell me is literally a piece of crap. And somehow this is my fault all because you guys can't put proper brakes on it? Like, I'm sorry, but that's not okay. That is so sketchy, it's not even funny. So good for you for reporting them and for getting them to lose their license, because the way they treated you is absolutely uncalled for. An entitled old lady in a shelter acted like she was in a hotel room, treating me like garbage and also making noise at all hours of the night. And I am seriously so glad I don't live there anymore, because that time in my life was a living nightmare. Here's what happened. To start things out, this was years ago, but I was in a transitional shelter. And for reference, this is sort of like a stepping stone between homelessness and getting an apartment. Anyways, everybody had their own room, but you had to share a bathroom. And the 2 rooms were connected by a bathroom. I was there for 3 weeks, and then they moved someone in next door to me. And that's fine, honestly, I didn't even think anything about it. But it turns out that my neighbor is the most entitled old lady I have ever met in my life. I mean, I could not even sleep at night due to her going into the bathroom and doing God knows what. She would stand in there talking to herself and slamming things down and just generally being a pain in the neck. When I told her to quiet down, she would just tell me to shut up and then cuss at me. And did I mention that this was happening in the middle of the night? I went to my case manager 3 separate times about about this woman disturbing me and was told that she was not going to do anything about it. I was told you can either learn to live with it or you can move out. Your choice. I thought a case manager's job was to deal with stuff like that, but I soon found out that I was not the only person who was having issues with her. You also had to sign up for a specific time to do laundry. You could also pick up whatever time you wanted that was available, but you had to sign up. Well, she would frequently do laundry during other people's time slots, and when they said something to her, it was like, oh, I didn't know any better. But she had been there for 2 weeks at that time that the first incident I heard about occurred. So it's not that she didn't know, it's just that she didn't care. I even witnessed her treating the staff like they were supposed to say how high whenever she said jump. I mean, I just don't know how she didn't get thrown out of there. One time when I walked into the bathroom, I overheard her on the phone with someone complaining. She was saying stuff like, I should not have to share the bathroom with someone else. This is pathetic. She would frequently try to intimidate me, and I let her know that it was not going to happen. And she was mad that I wasn't just going to back down and let her treat me however she wanted. She seemed to be one of those old people who thinks that because they're old, they should get whatever they want and that the world revolves around them. She acted like she was paying for a hotel and that I was rude for being in her space. Her attitude was basically to say, how dare you be in my space? And I think the most messed up part about it is that she moved in on me and then had the nerve to act like I was inconveniencing her. I overheard her saying that she had been paying for a hotel before she got into the shelter. When I overheard her complaining about having to share a bathroom, I won't lie. I yelled out, then why don't you go pay for that hotel you said you were paying for? This is not a hotel. You can't just move in here and act like you own the place. She then told me again to shut up and cursed at me again. The rule stated that if you threatened another client or if you verbally mistreated them, then it was an immediate eviction, and there were no exceptions. So you know what? I recorded this entire thing and how she was constantly making noise. But even still, I was told to just deal with it. I ended up moving out because I couldn't take the constant noise and I couldn't take being kept up all night. I also considered going to the CEO of the place, but I just left it alone. All I know is that I feel sorry for whoever moved in after me because they were definitely going to need the patience of a saint. Anyways, that's my story. I just can't believe she had the nerve to move into a shelter and act like that. I was like, we are in a shared space. We're in close quarters and it's not ideal, but you should make the best of it. You can't just move in and then complain because it's not the way you want things to be. If you don't like it, then there's the door. But no, she just wanted everybody to bend over backwards for her. It really blows my mind how entitled some people can be, and it's like, seriously, read the room. Realize the situation that you're in and the reality of it. Don't complain about how you think things should be, and instead deal with how they are right now, which is exactly what I chose to do. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine living through that. Here you are in a literal situation where you're like, okay, I'm trying to figure my life out, and you're trying to find some kind of stability. And then in walks this idiot who clearly doesn't need to be there, who was literally at a hotel not even a few nights before, slamming the doors and making all this noise in the bathroom, while also trying to be like, no, you can't use the bathroom anymore. It's like, my God, how out of touch can you possibly get? So yeah, this whole situation is messed up, and I'm so sorry that you went through that, because the way this lady treated you is absolutely unacceptable. An entitled customer steals my food that I was gonna take home for my restaurant job, as he literally takes it off the rack that was not meant for him and walks right out the door. And I'm honestly so pissed off because I seriously cannot stand dealing with people like this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just finished my shift and ordered boneless wings to go, and I wanted them extra wet so that they wouldn't be dry by the time I got home. I went up front to the host stand to get my stuff together and leave, just like I always do, and I set my to-go bag down on the bottom shelf of the tall rack next to the host stand. And mind you, this bag has a bright yellow ticket on it that has my name all over it, and it's on the order taped on the bag. And also, this rack is used for to-go orders, but only the top shelf. The other 3 shelves are regularly used for storage. We also have a sign on top of the rack that says to not take the to-go orders off the rack and to let the host do it. I stepped away for maybe a minute to call somebody, and I was gone for less than 5 minutes. And when I came back, my food was gone. Now, the host just came up front, so she had gone to the kitchen after I stepped away, and I asked her if she had seen my food, and she was really confused. Then she said it was possible that a customer could have taken it. She said that she had checked a guy out while I was away and told him that it would still be a few minutes for his order, and she went to the kitchen to check on the order. Well, he was gone now, so we called him. I listened to the whole call, and she told him that he had the wrong order and he needed to come back because his order was still being made. Well, this genius said to me, I'm gonna go home first and then we'll make sure that it's the wrong order. And it's like, no, we're telling you that it's the wrong order. You just left. All you have to do is turn around. Well, 10 minutes later, he calls us back, and then he says to us, after taking a look at the order and the ticket on the bag, it's clear that it's the wrong order. And it's like, yeah, that is what we told you. He came back and didn't even apologize for taking someone else's order. He just barely stuck his head inside. He handed it over, grabbed his, and made sure he got his ranch before leaving without another word. And I was so upset about it. By the time I got home, the wings were dry. This guy is a regular to-go order customer who took the bag that was at the bottom of the shelf at the floor and assumed it was his after being told his wasn't ready. Then he just left without telling anybody. I mean, seriously, what goes through people's heads when they do things like this? He looked and talked to us like he was the one being inconvenienced. I told another host about this, and they said it was perfectly fine and nothing wrong about it, but that they're only saying that because they like him. So seriously, I'm still so annoyed by this, and I really just cannot get over it. Oh yeah, this really pisses me off. I would be so upset if someone stole my food after a long day of working. Like, you even specially order that exactly the way you like them so that you could actually enjoy them when you got home. And the fact that your friend is trying to be like, oh, it's totally fine, you're just being weird. Like, no dude, you're being weird. This level of entitlement is so annoying. The customer literally just heard, hey, your stuff is still being made, let me check on it. And instead of waiting, they're like, oh look, a free bag, I'm gonna take that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Did we not just have a conversation literally 10 seconds ago that said, hey, I'll be right back, I'm gonna check on your order and see where it's at? Like, seriously, what's happening right now? Did this guy suddenly have like convenient amnesia where he's like, oh look, a bag, let me get it and go home? So no, you're not overreacting or anything like that, and I think your friend's an idiot for trying to be like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Because yes, everything is wrong with this situation. And the fact that he didn't even have the decency to try and be like, oh, I'm so sorry for taking that bag or apologize at all, says absolutely everything you would ever need to know about that guy. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. The person I was seeing got married right behind my back, and after 5 months of dating them, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been seeing someone for around 5 months now. We started out casual, but it was starting to feel like it was getting more serious. I thought we clicked well, we had fun, and we enjoyed spending time together. He made plans with me and was starting to share more intimate things with me. He seemed very sweet, level-headed, smart, I mean, you name it, and he had it. I thought he was a catch, but about a month ago, he seemed off and said he was going through a hard time with work and was just stressed out. He was not really answering calls or text messages like he normally would, and he went totally dark for a few days. But then eventually it all went back to normal. But unfortunately, that was a lie. It turns out about a month ago, he got married to another woman, and I have no idea about her age or any of those details. Despite it being a short time, I'm devastated. I feel disgusted, used, and disappointed. I believe in marriage and I take it seriously. And I realize there is someone else in this situation who stands to get their heart broken. I don't know anything about this other woman, and I'm torn between walking away and saying nothing, and walking away but trying to find her details to tell her what he's been up to. If it were me, I'm not sure I would want to know this information, but then again, maybe I would. I can't tell if I'm blinded by shock and sadness right now. How would you handle this? I want to be mature about this, but I hate that people like this are out there, hurting others for what feels like no reason other than their own selfishness. What should I do? Okay, if I'm dating someone and I find out they're married all of a sudden, you better believe I'm telling that other person. I don't care what's going on. This is honestly so crazy to me. Because here's the thing, you're not getting married overnight. I don't care who you are. You're not all of a sudden gonna get married to someone and be like, okay, happily ever after. And yes, I know there's extenuating circumstances where people actually do that, but I'm talking like overall, general people who are like, okay, I've known this person for several years and now I'm gonna get married. Because that's clearly what's been going on behind the scenes. The original poster was just some kind of like side piece for this guy, and she had no idea that he was engaged and getting married soon. Like seriously, what a scumbag. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely tell that other lady. I would 100% tell that lady that he was cheating, because what he did is incredibly sketchy, and that is something that she has the right to know. An entitled jerk keeps stealing my footballs anytime we go to practice, so I decide to get some petty revenge by secretly deflating them behind his back. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I am European, so the footballs that I'm referring to are not the same that you would find in America. I'm working as a volunteer football coach for some kids in a small club. I really enjoy being a coach, and I help them improve their football skills. I always arrive a bit early at the club to prepare drills and the materials for the training session, and there is another coach at the club who is a real jerk. He seriously thinks he's the next big thing, which in my opinion, he definitely is not. He doesn't prepare drills by drawing or writing them down. He always makes negative comments about mine or other coaches' drills. He doesn't respect pitch schedules and always leaves goals on the pitch, so we have to spend time removing them, and he also loses balls and other materials all the time. I have tried to talk with him about this, but he says he has more coaching experience and that he has been at the club longer than I have, so I just have to get used to his ways. The final straw of his behavior was when after a training session, my team couldn't find some of our footballs. We then spent up to half an hour trying to find them, and for reference, every ball ball is marked with team names to recognize the balls. But eventually it got late, and we had to go back down because the kids' parents were waiting for them. Now, I was frustrated because I always make sure that when a ball is kicked out of the pitch, the kids are ordered to go get the ball back immediately. Balls are expensive, and if we lose them, we have to wait some time before we are getting new ones. I got back to the ball lockers and was putting them back inside my team lockers, and right there I saw 3 of my balls in my coach colleague's ball locker, and all of my team balls had been marked over with his team name by him. Well, instead of trying to talk to him about it and get my balls back, where he definitely will deny him doing such a thing, I instead brought in a ball pressure gauge. And so for the last 2 months, I've deflated all of his balls before training session to the point where he has to inflate all of them to make them useful. And it's funny how he's started to complain about the quality of the balls and that he deserves new balls now. And honestly, this guy's a massive jerk, and this is exactly what he gets for stealing my footballs. I love the fact that you did this because that guy does sound like a jerk. He's literally trying to excuse his crappy behavior by being like, oh, I've got more experience. You're just gonna have to deal with it. And that's just super weird. Like, seriously, just be reasonable. So good for you for getting back at him in the way that you did, because if he's gonna steal those footballs, then congratulations, they're always going to be deflated. The local coffee shop that I work for was incredibly toxic, as they tried to posture themselves as a fine dining experience. But after quitting and meeting some of the other coworkers that worked there, I realized that this was not an isolated incident, and I'm honestly so glad I don't deal with them any longer. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is my very first time doing something like this. I worked at White Noise Coffee, a locally owned coffee shop in New York City. When I was hired, my job description was just barista, but on the first day, training was all rushed. They expected me to learn all the point of sale and make drinks on the same day, and then on my second day, do kitchen work. And at that time, they recently opened a kitchen area and expected for all baristas to cook restaurant-style quality. They taught me once and made me do 5 orders right away on rush hour, while one of the owners, who we will call Hans, yelled by your ear and was throwing tantrums, while Hans's wife, who we will call Vanessa, and also an owner of the restaurant, just watches us get mistreated while having a smirk on her face. Now, because I was not able to cook, Hans threw all the utensils and pan to the sink and told me to wash everything before I leave for my shift, and that if I did not clean it properly, it would come out of my paycheck. Well, naturally, I quit over the phone with Vanessa, and I commented on how the workplace is very toxic, but she just decided to laugh and said, I thought you were better. Hans's attitude is like this because he was an accountant, which made no sense at all. Later on in my coffee career, I met ex-workers from White Noise who also everyone commented on how terrible that place was, which brings me to the topic of one particular worker who stayed long enough to know the owners better and then asked them why their attitudes were so awful. They said basically they want White Noise to serve like a fine dining experience, and the reason they're so tough on the employees is to filter the strong ones out from the weak ones. And funny enough, all the good baristas that were in White Noise are the people that I met. One way I would describe White Noise on how terrible it was is that basically it was the TV show The Bear, but honestly it was worse, because Hans would physically pull and push you if you made even a small mistake. So yeah, I'm glad I don't work there anymore because that place sounds incredibly toxic. Okay, in my opinion, you can still have high standards for what you want served at your restaurant, but also choose not to be a complete jerk in the process. Screaming in someone's ear over food and all this other crap, like that honestly doesn't do anything except stress people out. No one should have to deal with that. I don't know about you, but if someone started doing that to me, you better believe that's not gonna go well for that person. That doesn't teach discipline or like teach them how to be a better chef or whatever. That only teaches them that, oh yeah, this person is literally the devil and I can't wait to get away from them. Oh, and by the way, it's not weak to quit a job that's being toxic towards you. You don't owe those people anything. Like, those people are losers and there's no way that anyone should ever have to deal with that. So good for you for getting out of there in the way that you did, because those people sound like absolute nightmares to work for. Am I the jerk for not wanting my boyfriend's mom to move in with us, as she is literally taking the one space that I had left that I could claim as my own in this house? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I've always been close to my grandma, and when she got sick, I dropped everything at the age of 20 to take care of her on my own, hours away from any other family. We had a wonderful relationship, and unfortunately she passed away in March of 2024, and those 5 years that she was sick were very hard for me. On a separate note, in January of 2024, I began long-distance dating someone. We originally met in high school, and I was so happy to be reconnecting with him. I was head over heels, and my mom and grandma were excited for him. Before she passed away, my grandma told me to move out of state and be happy with him, because it's my time to live now. And so I did it. She died and I moved in with him in October. Now, I realize this sounds really stupid, and I really should have known better, like seriously, because life is so hard right now, and I'm adjusting to a lot at once. I have nothing and nobody here here. I'm in my first serious relationship, and I share a space with him and my 5-year-old stepdaughter. Everything here is so different from home. And worst of all, I still mourn my grandma like she died yesterday. It changed me, and not in a pleasant way. I'm moody and apathetic, and while I do my very best every day, I'm still not the bright, bubbly woman I used to be. I had hoped that my boyfriend would help me through this, but I feel lonelier than ever. We never really talk much about my grief. When I freak out, I try explaining to him that I am in a world of pain, and I'm sorry because it causes me to be a big handful. But he is still always upset with me because I sometimes don't want to play with his daughter when I'm sad or tired. He's upset because I'm not optimistic about trying new things, and there's always a reason we're upset at each other. And now his mom is staying with us for personal reasons, which hadn't really been a part of the plan, but he invited her without consulting me first. I got really upset because I live here too, and this affects me as well, and quite frankly, I was raised believing couples need to live alone, definitely with no moms under the roof. But I understand her situation, so I asked him to have a conversation with her about what her plan was, how long she was planning on staying, what does staying here look like, but he still hasn't talked to her. Ultimately, I'm upset because in this house there are 4 rooms. He and I share one room, his daughter has her own, which she rarely uses by the way, as she's only here on weekends, and even then, she sleeps and hangs out with us. He has his office and the last is completely empty. Before I even moved in, I asked if I could use it because I need my personal space sometimes. He said absolutely, I definitely need my own space and that it will be good for me to have a room for myself. I planned on creating my own little safe space for when I was feeling especially sad or just having a tough time with grief or overstimulation or anything. I had been planning what bookshelves to buy, sending him photos, telling him my plans of filling it with my grandma's plants, and just creating a cozy atmosphere. But then he gave it to his mom, again without consulting me. But now he's angry because I asked if his mom can't just stay in his daughter's room. You know, since the room is unused and his daughter likes sleeping with his mom anyways. And especially because this was supposed to be temporary. How is it that everybody has their own space but me? I can't even cry in peace because I don't have anywhere to go without someone walking in. And it's killing me that he can't understand the enormous adjustments and the immense grief that I'm experiencing. I don't think I'm asking for too much, but honestly, I need to know. Am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this just doesn't sound like this is a good fit. I know for myself, I need my own space. I can't really function without having somewhere I can go to do my own thing. And the fact that he took away that one space you had without talking to you first, and also moved his mom in without talking to you at all about it, like that is a big red flag in my opinion, and I would not put up with that for a second. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be moving out. I would not live there. There's just no way that's gonna work. I would find an apartment and get my own space, because this clearly is not working in my opinion. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely hate having to deal with this. My entitled neighbor seems to think that just because I have a car that drives by his work, I am now somehow his personal Uber who is gonna drive him to and from work. And now I'm honestly super frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, a few weeks ago, I finally bought a new car. It's nothing too flashy, but it is a big deal for me because I've been saving up for a while and I also got really lucky. So needless to say, I was feeling very good about it. One morning I was driving to work and I saw my neighbor walking down the street. We are friendly but not super close, and I figured I would be nice, so I pulled over and I asked if he needed a lift. He happily accepted, and during the ride, we realized that we work fairly close to each other. Now, no big deal, right? Well, apparently that one ride turned into an unspoken agreement. The next day, I saw him standing there at the same spot, clearly waiting for me. I thought to myself, alright, whatever, I'll give him another ride. But now it's been every single day ever since then. Rain or shine, he is there. No text message, no asking. He's just standing there waiting. At first, I didn't mind too much, but now it's getting on my nerves. Some mornings I just want to listen to music, zone out, or even just stop for coffee without worrying about someone else's schedule. I even tried leaving earlier once, thinking that he'd get the hint, but no. The next day he mentioned how he must have missed me. Now, I don't want to be a jerk, but I never agreed to be his personal chauffeur. I was just trying to be nice one time, and now I feel awkward bringing it up because I don't want to cause any weird tension with a neighbor. So seriously, would I be the bad guy if I just started running late or having meetings in the morning? Or should I just straight up tell him that I don't want to give him rides every day? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, there's no reason you should ever have to give this guy a ride. There's nothing wrong with being direct and saying, listen, I can't give you a ride. This isn't working for me. You need to find your own way to work moving forward. And it doesn't matter if his work is like on the way to your work. That is still an unnecessary stop that you did not sign up for. I mean, if he really wants to get to work, then guess what? He can take the bus. Like, that's what public transportation is for. You're not this guy's personal driver and you have no obligation to him. And it doesn't matter that or that he's your neighbor. This is so weirdly entitled, it honestly is like super annoying. So no, you would not be the jerk for using your words and saying, no, I can't give you a ride anymore. Because the very fact that this guy's expecting it without setting up some kind of arrangement, like him paying you for gas or something like that, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. My wife cheated on me the night before, but confessed to me immediately the next day. And now I'm left feeling so heartbroken that I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, as the title states, my wife cheated on me and it happened 10 days ago. She went out with her friends, met a guy, drank more than usual, started flirting, got tempted, resisted for some time, and then he seduced her. And they then had some unprotected quality time, if you know what I mean. I went to bed early because I had work the next day, so I didn't see her until the next morning. Now she was home but didn't sleep in our bed and slept in the living room, and I guess she just didn't want to wake me up. Anyways, I took my stuff and I went to work. When I came back home from work, we had lunch, but I could tell something wasn't right. Long story short, she told me that she had something to say to me and that it was heavy and difficult. She then informed me that she slept with a guy the night before. She told me all the details. There were no tears, no begging, no nothing. She had probably cried the entire day while I was at work, but while she was telling me what she did, there wasn't any crying. Now, of course, I was shocked. My sweetheart, my friend, my other half had betrayed me and stabbed me in the back. I had no words, absolutely nothing I could say. I just looked at her and she looked at me, and there was nothing, only silence. We didn't speak that day and we just did the chores like robots. And over the next few days, we had a few conversations. I asked her if that was all and she said yes. I asked her how I could believe anything she said and she replied that I couldn't. I asked her how I could trust her with anything and she said that I could not. She said that there was no going back, that there was nothing we could do to go back, and she just asked me if there was anything I would like to try at all. I then asked her if she realized that the path of us reconciling might never work, that it could be a waste of time, money, and emotions, and only prolong the inevitable. She said yes, and then I asked her if she understood that I might never forgive her, that forgiveness and grace are gifts given freely and not something you deserve or get for being a good person, and to that she also said yes. I asked her why it happened, and she told me it was thrilling, exciting, and something new, even though she was drunk and she made her decision. I told her that now I know she's capable of such a thing. What is stopping her from doing it again? She said that she didn't think she was capable of doing something so horrible and that she would do everything to ensure it doesn't happen again. But I told her I can't trust her ever again. I love her, but I don't respect her anymore, and I told her so. She then apologized, but I told her that apologies and words are meaningless and worthless. She said she would accept whatever decision I make, but she promised on everything that she has that she would atone for her mistake, that she would never do anything like that again, and that she would be grateful to me for the rest of her life. She also said that if I chose to divorce her, she wouldn't make it difficult and that she would carry that burden forever. I then took a few days off and I left for my grandparents' house on the farm just to think things over, and at this point I'm unsure. I love her, she is the only woman that exists for me, but at the same time, I understand that I would lose my pride and self-respect if I take her back. She was honest and took responsibility, made no excuses, and is ready to accept whatever decision I make. She is a cheater, but at least she has some kind of decency. But at this point, I'm honestly so hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I want to say I'm so sorry this happened because from the sounds of it, you do not deserve this. Your wife cheated in a way that you clearly did not expect was ever going to happen. And that seriously sucks. I'm so sorry that happened because you just don't deserve this kind of treatment. And sure, she apologized and said, I'm so sorry this happened, and she admitted to it right away, but that doesn't excuse the fact that she's married and she still chose to do that. And just like the original poster, I would be devastated if I found that out. It would be very hard for me to come back and be like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. Let's go to therapy and figure this out. It's like, no, dude, this is crazy to me. You literally betrayed me on something I thought you would be perfect at. I thought you would be perfect at not cheating on me, but clearly you can't, and now here we are. So I can't really say on whether or not you should stay with her because that's obviously your decision, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would really be thinking this over because what she did to you is absolutely unexcusable, and this is something that you did not deserve in the slightest. My toxic entitled friend is constantly antagonistic towards my family and my children, as she is always asking for money and basically implying that my family is distracting me from giving her exactly what she wants. And so, after a really toxic remark she made about my future kid, I decided to get some revenge by literally cutting her out of my life in a way that she will never find me ever again. Here's what happened. So I ended a very long-term friendship with someone I called my best friend because it became glaringly obvious that she only had time for me when she needed money or help. I ended it abruptly and without explanation after she said one of the most callous things I've ever heard from someone who claimed to care about me. For a bit of context, about 3 years ago, I became a mother, and that's around the time when she stopped showing up for me, constantly making excuses and telling me she had other plans. I was always the person who could could show up at her house even when I lived an hour away. But once I moved within a 3-mile radius of her, she never had time for me. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and she makes more than my husband does, and her bills are about 50% less than ours. I have urged her to work on budgeting and making a plan for savings, but she says I'm making her feel bad about her spending and just shuts me out. She knows that my husband and I have worked really hard to get our credit scores over 700. We put money into savings, and we've been really responsible with our finances. So when I would tell her that I can't help her out, she goes heavy on the guilt tripping, insinuating that I should be helping her because she knows we have money saved, and simply won't talk about anything other than how her financial problems are going to cause her to completely break down. And then at that point, she becomes hysterical. In the last year alone, I've bailed her out of car repossession, having her electricity turned off for non-payments, gas money, money for her child's medications, etc. Yet she always has money to smoke, drink alcohol, ordering food, buying stuff to decorate her house, etc. And always has excuses for why she just can't pay me back on time. And she even claims that she just forgot that the bills were due. She recently formed a new group of friends that don't have any children or any responsibilities, who can party with her, enable her bad habits, bring liquor to her house, buy her things, and get drunk every single weekend. And yet I was placed on the back burner because me having a family, a child, and responsibilities no longer fits into her lifestyle. Her husband is actively addicted to substances, and she enables him to stay active in addiction, would constantly call me, literally crying and screaming into my ear about how badly he treats her, how strung out he is, and how badly they're fighting. But then, in the same conversation, she reverts back to making excuses for him whenever solutions are presented. But any mention of my husband, who works hard to take care of his family and we're both in therapy, and she has nothing but unkind things to say about him, referencing back to many years prior when we were struggling in the past. She was unhappy when my husband and I got married, where she said that she didn't support it and that she didn't want to know about it. But the thing is, we are very happy and we have been for quite a while. It's almost as if she resents my husband and my family for making me less accessible to her instead of being happy for me. Well, fast forward to present day, and my husband and I are expecting our second child, which was all part of the plan, and she is also not happy about that. She even went as far as encouraging me to make sure the birth doesn't happen, if you know what I mean, and said that I was making a mistake. Now, for reference, I'm struggling in this pregnancy with something that is causing extreme morning sickness all day, every day, and I'm throwing up 5 to 10 times a day, and I'm barely able to hold down water. And sure, there are medications that help, but the side effects are also just super rough. It is temporary and I know it will pass, but still it's really hard nonetheless. Well, my breaking point was reaching out to her for support recently because of the mental toll that it's all taking on me. Because she said to me, "You did this to yourself and you need to figure out how to deal with it on your own." And this was said a few days after I said no when she needed $250 for an ongoing health issue her dog has had for months now. You know, the same one that she's just completely let go. Well, after she said that, full stop, I blocked her number, all of her socials, and also deleted several of my socials because she had multiple friends watching my posts and reporting back to her. She even created profiles to try and get access to me, but I did not provide any explanation or any reason for cutting her off. I know from years and years of dealing with her that she will try to turn it back around on me, play the perpetual victim, twist it to make it my fault, and manufacture a list of things that she thinks I've done wrong, and I honestly just don't have the time or energy to deal with it. Wow, good for you for cutting this lady off because she is insane. She's the classic person who literally only takes away from friendships and doesn't give anything. She's always looking for a handout, but she's never able to give a handout herself. And that's honestly so obnoxious. And I really think the worst part about this is that you are completely right. She's pissed off because you're focusing on other people instead of her, as if your family and your children are somehow a distraction from what she wants. And it's like, my God, she was never your friend to begin with. Everything with her was just transactional because she literally only wanted money out of you and nothing else. So seriously, good for you for cutting her off because that lady sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled truck driver decided to be a jerk by flashing his lights and honking his horn anytime we tried to stop him on the highway. So me and my girlfriend decided to get some petty revenge by literally giving him a taste of his own medicine. Here's what happened. So this happened last summer when my girlfriend and I were driving back from her sister's house. It was a long drive, and since we left late at night, we ended up on the toll roads around 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, at first, we noticed flashes of light in the distance and assumed it was heat lightning, nothing since, it was summer, so we just didn't think much of it. A little while later, we got behind a semi-truck on a 2-lane road. When we switched lanes to pass him, everything seemed fine until he moved behind us and started flashing his brights at us non-stop. Well, that's when we realized that the heat lightning we had been seeing was actually this guy flashing his brights at every car in front of him. On top of that, he started honking at us. Stunned, we switched lanes to let him pass, and as we did, he flicked us off. At that point, my girlfriend decided to stay behind him because she didn't want to drive next to him. Well, as we continued driving, he did the same thing to another car. After a few minutes, I then joked that we should give him a taste of his own medicine. My girlfriend said yeah, and she started flashing her lights at him, honking her horn, and then sped past him, and I even flicked him off. By the time he realized what was happening, we were already far ahead. He tried to catch up, but his truck just didn't have the speed, and we simply couldn't stop laughing. We never figured out why he was doing it, but blinding people at night like that was just dumb and dangerous. He wasn't trapped in traffic or anything. He was just being a massive jerk. So in the end, we got our petty revenge, and we had a good laugh all the way home. Yeah, I will never understand why some truck drivers act like that, where they will be up on your tail and flashing their lights and honking their horn as if they somehow own the road. It's like, dude, I'm going the speed limit and I'm literally out of your way. I'm trying to pass around you because you're the one going too slow. So for you to pretend to be super aggressive for some dumb reason, all because I'm trying to get around you, like that is honestly so obnoxious. So honestly, I don't blame you for getting revenge on this guy, because the way this guy treated you, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. Today, I messed up by sending a badly timed gift to the work group chat that caused all of my coworkers and manager to start desperately messaging me that I need to delete it right away. Here's what happened. So this took place back in 2020 during the lockdowns, and I'm 30 years old at the time. My workplace shifted to remote working, so everyone was now working from home, and Microsoft Teams was the new tool that we were using to keep in contact. My manager suggested that in the mornings, everyone sends a GIF or a meme to the group chat when they start work. That way, everybody knows we're online. The group chat consisted of 15 people, so mornings were a little annoying as the group chat was flooded with images and messages. As a fan of The Simpsons, I would usually just send some random Simpsons GIF, like Homer emerging from the bushes or Ralph rolling down a hill. So one morning, I had to start a little earlier to catch up on some work, and I opened up Teams and I did my usual Simpsons-related search, and then I picked the GIF of evil Homer dressed as the devil, shaking maracas and dancing on the grave of good Homer. And honestly, I thought I was the first person to message in the group that morning, but I was completely wrong. After I sent the message, I went to the bathroom, and while on the toilet, I could hear my Teams notifications go off, and even heard somebody try to call me twice. But I figured it could wait until I got back to my desk. So I get to see what's going on a couple of minutes later. The group chat was still open with my GIF of evil Homer dancing on a grave, but there was another message I hadn't seen earlier. The message had the same timestamp as mine, but it appeared in the chat before my GIF. They must have sent it moments before I did, making it look like I'd sent my GIF of the grave dancing Homer as a response. Well, the message was one of the team members saying that her dad died over the weekend, and she wouldn't be working for the next few days to spend time with the family and plan the funeral. When I realized what it looked like, my heart sank. I rushed to delete the message and just prayed that she hadn't seen it. The other notifications was one colleague sending me a screenshot of the chat and asking me what I was thinking, and the others were 2 missed calls from my manager and an all caps message telling me to delete the GIF immediately. After deleting it, I called my manager to let her know what had happened, and thankfully she assumed it was a mistake and that I would never do something so insensitive. I asked if she thought I should say anything to the colleague since I wasn't sure if she had actually seen it, but my manager said that she was offline now anyways, so all I could do was wait until she's back if I was going to say anything. When she returned to work, I did explain what happened and I gave her an apology. I didn't give the full description exactly of what GIF I sent, just that it wasn't appropriate for the time. Luckily, she said she had not seen the message, so thankfully I didn't hurt her, but I did scare the living daylights out of about 5 coworkers who had seen the message and the GIF before I was able to delete it. And honestly, with all things considered, I think I got incredibly lucky. Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. First off, you're so lucky your coworker didn't see that because yeah, that could have been really bad. But also, at least you have people who care and they're like, wait a second, you need to delete that. Because I've worked in places where my coworkers could care less what I'm doing, and so you very easily could have had somebody in that group be like, oh, that's funny, let me report you and get you in trouble. So yeah, this was definitely a mess up, but honestly, it clearly was not on purpose. But it's just so unfortunate and kind of funny that that's the message you sent, especially after something so devastating that your coworker just described. Am I the jerk for not having my roommate's back on enforcing her boundaries about our roommate? Because right now she's incredibly mad at me and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live with 3 roommates. We'll call them Leah, May, and Darcy. Leah and I have lived together for 3 years now, May for 1 year, and Darcy for only a few months. Well, the issues started with Darcy getting a new boyfriend who started coming over quite frequently. I have no issue with this, and neither does May because the boyfriend is very nice. But apparently, it's Leah that has the issue with this. Now, Leah's room is right next door to Darcy. Her complaints so far have been the following. For starters, she's been woken up to the sounds of bed squeaking a couple of times. Secondly, Darcy hasn't told us when he's coming over a couple of times. So he's walked in while Leah is in pajamas or doing Pilates. He also doesn't really clean up after himself at the bathroom. And also, he left the window blind open when it's always closed. But mostly, overall, it's how often he's over at the house. It's been a month of this boyfriend being around, and Leah has come ranting to me on multiple occasions. She has sat down with Darcy to discuss this, and Darcy was embarrassed by the noise thing, and I believe it hasn't happened ever since then. However, Leah also told Darcy that she could only have her boyfriend over once a week, as she said that she made it clear when Darcy moved in that this was a quiet house where boys can't come and go, not even overnight once a week, but anything longer than 15 minutes or just getting picked up. Ever since that talk, Darcy still has him over, even though it is a little bit less, going from maybe 4 times a week to 2 times a week, but still, it's way more often than Leah would want. Now, I've kind of just gone along with whatever Leah has said because it's easier and we are good friends, but I don't really care that much. And also, I live on a different floor from them in our house. Frankly, I have no issue with any of that, except for the obvious point of the bed squeaking, which I'm happy has been addressed. I also have sympathy because the boyfriend lives in dorms on an army base, so they have no option but to come to our place if they want to hang out without spending any money. Well, here's where I may be the jerk. Darcy texted our group chat asking if she could have her boyfriend over tonight. Leah was talking to me when we got the message, and I told her that it's up to her, but I'm not going to say no. She then started ranting about the situation again, and at this point I kind of snapped, and I said to her, your boundaries might not be reasonable, and I explained that a lot of people wouldn't care about him being over or some of the issues that she's had with him. Well, she was very clearly not impressed with what I said, and the conversation devolved from there into me telling her to do what she wanted to, but it's also up to her now. I'm not getting involved, with her replying and saying, well, that's fine. You haven't had my back since the beginning of this, so what difference does it make? So seriously, am I the jerk for what I said to her? Like, I can see where some frustration comes from, but I don't think we have any right to limit what someone is doing in the place they rent. Leah does have bad anxiety, so this might be a contributing factor. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I really can see both sides here because this does sound incredibly messy. For starters, Leah is literally right next to them. She has a front row seat at how noisy and obnoxious Darcy probably is being. And I don't know about you, but if you've had like roommates or even like lived in an apartment complex, noise is just gonna be a part of the equation. Like literally, this is just something that happens and you kind of just have to live with it. But when it comes to Leah, clearly this is something way worse than what would normally be allowed in an apartment. And she's kind of latched onto the idea of like, oh no, this is Darcy's boyfriend and he's gotta go. So on that end, I can understand where she's coming from, but also I think Darcy absolutely has a right to bring her boyfriend over. For me, unless it's in writing in some kind of like lease of some kind that says no, we can't have anybody over here ever, then sorry about that, but my significant other is absolutely coming over. Like, you can't stop me, I didn't sign up for that, and I don't care. And it's also really weird to me that Leah's trying to drag you into this and be like, you need to help support me on this. It's like, nope, I don't think so, I'm not involved. I live upstairs and I don't have anything to do with this, do whatever you want. I've had friends like that where it's like their way or the highway, and I can completely understand why you're like, okay, I'm not getting involved in this. So that's just my take on it. I kind of see both sides of this, and I can see why you would be annoyed, but I can also absolutely understand why Leah is like, okay, this has got to stop. But either way, hopefully this gets worked out because this sounds like an annoying situation. Today, I found out that my girlfriend of almost 5 years cheated on me in a way that honestly has broken my trust. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So we've been together for 4 years, almost 5 in total. And today, the guy she went out with told me everything that happened between them. Basically, they met at the gym and started texting each other on Instagram. One day, they decided to go out together, obviously without telling me, and from there were other dates between the two of them and other group dates with his friends. And for reference, she only told me that she had met this group of nice guys and that she had gone out with them a couple of times. During one of those dates that she went with just the two of them, she invited the guy to her grandmother's house since the bars were closed and it was cold outside. When they arrived, he lay down on the couch to sleep and she leaned against his chest, taking his arms and holding him close to her to be hugged. After that night, he told me that on other occasions she also tried to kiss him. For example, while they were walking, she stopped, put her hands on his shoulders and stared at him. As soon as I found out everything, I confronted her, and as I told her what had been said to me, she continued to deny it, saying that for her, he was just a friend and that she loved him because he was going through a difficult family situation. I then had to tell her everything that he had told me to get her to admit something, even even if she continued to contradict herself. Looking at the chat between her and him, I saw that it was almost always her who suggested they go out, and that they would go out at night, which would literally be on nights when I sent her a message saying goodnight, and she would just brush me off and ignore it. We finally got to the point where she burst into tears, apologizing and saying that she doesn't feel anything for that guy, and that he was always just a friend to her. Now, to give some info about me, I'm a very quiet guy and I'm introverted. I prefer to stay home on Saturday nights, or at most, always go out with the same group of friends. But she's the opposite. She likes going out, she's extroverted, and she wants to go out every single Saturday. So honestly, I don't know if I should forgive her. It bothers me to end a relationship like this after 5 years together, but I have no idea how to forget or even ignore what happened, especially because she hid it from me. What should I do? Okay, I think it's important to know that I don't think she's actually sorry. She's only sorry that she got caught and not that she was cheating. If she had any ounce of remorse about what she was doing, she would have disconnected from this guy and been like, wait a second, what am I doing? This is so wrong. But instead, she was sneaking behind your back and going out with this guy, and also meeting his friends and doing all this other sketchy stuff. And that, in my opinion, is not the mark of a good girlfriend. If anything, that's the mark of someone who absolutely does not have your best interest in mind. And she clearly just doesn't care about you in that way. So truly, do of this what you will, but I know for me, there's no way I would ever take someone like that back, because that's a level of betrayal that I just honestly don't think I would ever be able to forgive. Am I the jerk for snapping at my friend after she humiliated me in front of others? Because things seriously got very heated, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been close friends with this girl for the past 2 years. We've had our fair share of issues, but this time things escalated to the extreme. Recently, we attended an event with some mutual friends. While walking around, she jokingly called me pig crap in front of everybody. And while I did take this in stride, it still did sting a little. Later, when everyone was taking pictures, I asked if we could take one together, but she insisted on a group picture instead. Our friends encouraged us to take one first, saying that we do the group photo afterwards. But suddenly, she withdrew and lashed out. She then said to me, then go ahead, take the picture alone. And it honestly felt humiliating. Now, this wasn't the first time. Something similar happened before when we had an argument. She had refused to take a group picture just because I was in it. She then made a scene and then walked away. Confused and upset, I asked her what in the world that was about, but she ignored me. I persisted and raised my voice a bit, and I demanded an answer, at which point she ran away. And you know what? I left the event too. Later on, she called me, yelling about how I insulted her in public. She said she didn't take the picture because she wasn't comfortable with me. And it's like, excuse me, what are you talking about? The argument got heated and she shouted at me and I yelled back at her. And then out of nowhere, she threw in and said, is this how you talk to your mother and sister? At that point, I lost it. I said, F you, and then I hung up. I also texted her saying that she is an awful person and I was done walking on eggshells around her. I pointed out how she treats strangers with sweetness, but is awful to people who actually care about her. And then I blocked her completely. She then called me from another number, absolutely furious. How dare you cuss at me? How dare you call me awful? But I retaliated, saying that she was the one who dragged my mother into the argument. Well, her response was to say, should I call your mother and tell her that she's awful and say the F word at her? She then accused me of not knowing how to respect women. She then threatened to file a police complaint against me for cussing at her. And then she ended the call by saying, I hope you go straight to Hades. But I just said, yeah, I'll see you there. And then I hung up. After cooling down, I felt bad for how ugly things got. I sent her a message saying I didn't appreciate her bringing my mother into it, but I was sorry for cussing at her and how the fight escalated. Well, she just read it and then she blocked me. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation for the way I responded? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is such a weird situation because my God, no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you probably could have had that conversation in a much more mature manner, but seriously, your friend here is not a good friend at all. She literally puts you down in public, she calls you names and treats you like garbage in front of everybody else, and she goes as far as trying to isolate you from the group just to humiliate you. So yeah, this whole situation really sucks, but I think you really need to find better friends, because this lady definitely does not sound like one. An entitled toxic coworker pranks my trainees so badly that one of them rushes to my office so upset that they were in tears. So I decided to get some revenge by humiliating them in front of our boss in such a way that honestly makes them look like a complete idiot. And I've honestly never felt better in my life about getting back at somebody in this way. Here's what happened. Many years ago, I had a job where I worked with a company's apprentices and helped guide them in their job duties and training. This is a male-dominated field, and the workshops can be pretty tough on the trainees, especially the females. At the time, I had 2 apprentices, 1 girl and 1 boy, and they were absolutely amazing workers in every way possible. But in the shop, we had several men that loved making the trainees' lives difficult. All the usual pranks like sending them to the store to get a T1000 bolt stretcher or 10 liters of compressed water. None of this was really cruel, but when they already feel like they don't fit in or even know how things work, these pranks can really make them feel low. One older guy in the workshop, let's call him Bob, had decided to pull his usual prank on the trainees. After they unlocked the trainee toolbox, he replaced their open lock with a duplicate lock. At the end of the day, they locked their toolbox up and went home, not knowing that it wouldn't be open the next day. What Bob didn't know was that the trainees were scheduled to do some really important jobs for a very nasty middle manager at 7 the next morning. Additionally, Bob was sent to a different location before work started, leaving both trainees unable to get their tools. Well, I finished a meeting at 9 o'clock, and I was met in my office by a crying 18-year-old girl. When they arrived at the shop in the morning, the manager assigned them some tasks and kept bothering them about their progress. Well, apparently, they were too embarrassed to say that they couldn't remember the code to the toolbox lock, and that Bob had locked up all the items they could use to cut the lock off. The manager stressed them out so bad that they just basically shut down. So I went to the shop and I opened Bob's toolbox and I let them use his tools, which, if you don't know, is a huge deal in a workshop. You never use someone's tools without permission. Bob returned a couple of hours later and was actually upset that they were in his toolbox, but also was incredibly pleased that they had issues with that manager. Now, I could have left it there, but honestly, I'm very spiteful and petty, so this is where I decided to get some revenge. Well, a month or so later, one of the trainees found a crate that had hand tools that had been missing for years, and we're talking thousands of dollars worth of tools. Saltwater had gotten inside and the tools were very rusty. He was going to show them how to clean up those tools and make them work like brand new again. The only problem was that Bob wasn't a very good industrial mechanic, and he definitely wasn't good at cleaning tools. So he took a 5-gallon bucket of WD-40, which by the way cost about $200, and just dumped a bunch of rusty tools in it. And sure, WD-40 is many things, but rust remover is not one of them. The trainees then excitedly showed me the tools they found and the bucket where Bob was helping to fix the tools. Bob strolled over and pulled a tool from the bucket and gave it a few attempts to see if it was free and dumped it back in. I told him it wouldn't remove the rust, but he replied by saying, "Just wait and see, I've done this many times before." Well, after a few days of this, I had an epiphany. I then told the trainees to stick around after work on Friday if they wanted to get some revenge on Bob. So we removed the tools from the WD-40, we dried them off, and we bead blasted the rust right off of them. Then we disassembled the ones with moving parts and greased them until they worked like new. Then we carefully dumped rusty metal dust onto all of the tools and slowly lowered them back into the WD-40. Well, fast forward to Monday morning during the weekly walkthrough, and I made sure to lead the boss towards the giant bucket of tools. He reacted exactly as I thought he would after seeing $200 of wasted WD-40. He also told Bob it's not rust remover. Bob grabbed a tool from the bucket, held it up, and miraculously it wiped clean. I mean, this looked like new. And best of all, it functioned like new. He proudly showed the boss that he was right all along, bragging about his expertise with tools. About this time, the trainees were smiling and chuckling. Bob asked what was so funny, the WD-40 worked. And that's when I prompted one of the trainees to tell Bob a little story about what they did after work on Friday, how they blasted and cleaned the tools because WD-40 isn't a rust remover. The boss then started laughing hysterically, basically saying, well duh, even the trainees know WD-40 won't remove rust. When the big boss said that, Bob literally turned bright red. He was stuttering and stammering, trying hard to play it off like he didn't care. But all day long, I kept retelling the story, especially if Bob was near. For weeks, he was being asked if he had some extra WD-40 by random people in the workshops. So the moral of this story is don't mess with my apprentices on my watch, especially if you try to hit them with some kind of malicious prank. Oh man, this really is nice, but honestly, I think you could have gone way further with Bob. Don't get me wrong, I love the fact that you humiliated him in front of your boss, and literally in front of the entire company, but this guy almost cost these people their job. Like the fact that they didn't know their code to get into that stupid cabinet, like that really could have been so much worse than just public humiliation. That could have cost them their career, and no less from a manager who's like so stuck up it's not even funny. And for me personally, I think pranks and stuff like that really should be reserved to coworkers that you actually like, because at least there's some kind of like camaraderie there. And you know at the end of the day, they're not going to be like super offended or hurt or something like that. But regardless, in my opinion, I think you did a great job in making Bob look like a complete idiot, because what he did, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my husband attend his sister's wedding? All because I was pregnant and I could give birth while he was gone. Because right now there's a lot of drama in the family and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and myself are expecting our first child this May in in 2025. We found out very early in September, and we did not keep this a secret from anyone. And in fact, we shared the news in person with his family and with my family on the day that we found out. During this period, his sister was getting to know someone and got engaged in October of 2024. It's sort of an arranged marriage, as she was set up and decided to get engaged only after 3 months of speaking to the guy. Her parents, who are my in-laws, were happy that she liked him and wanted to quickly move forward. And apparently she's been wanting to get married for the past 5 years. After the engagement party in October, there was a brief discussion of when the wedding would take place. His sister had mentioned that she wanted to be married by no later than April 2025. After our first initial visit in September, my husband had mentioned to his parents that I would not be able to travel after 34 weeks per my doctor, but his mother decided to ignore this information and not address it. His sister and mother decided to plan on having the wedding in April 2025, even though they had not booked anything. His sister's fiance also lives in Texas, a 3.5-hour flight away. I briefly mentioned that I would not be able to attend in April as it would be too close to my due date, but wish them all the best in their planning. Well, February of this year rolls around, and they decided to have the wedding this upcoming April in Texas. I tell my husband that because I will be almost 37 weeks pregnant, that we would definitely not be able to go. Well, a month prior, during a huge fight that we had, his mom had told him it's okay if I don't go, but that he would have to attend. And at the time, I was not opposed to it as I thought it would be fine. But 2 weeks ago, and we met with my doctor, and I decided to ask her for advice while he was there also in the room. I then asked her for confirmation that it's not a problem if he were to travel during my 37th week. She then looks at both of us and says absolutely not. When she said that, we both shared her in shock. She continues by saying, "This would be like rolling a dice. I would not recommend it. If something were to happen, I would not be able to slow anything down." Well, he unenthusiastically agrees and says it's messed up that they picked a date knowing that we most likely will not be able to attend. It's now almost April, and he just told his mother that we will both for sure not be attending. Well, my husband and in-laws then have a huge fight, and he explains the situation. And then suddenly, his dad says that he won't be attending the wedding either if my husband is not there. But I still don't budge after he tells me this, and I calmly state that he simply cannot attend 2 weeks before my due date, as we are literally both having the baby together. So seriously, am I the jerk for not letting him attend this wedding? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk, but also your in-laws are idiots. They literally said, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have a baby? Yeah, don't worry about that. We're gonna get our daughter married, and my son better be there. Who cares about your baby?" It's like, dude, what are we talking about here? The doctor literally said that he cannot go to this wedding as it is way too much of a gamble. And honestly, I kind of have to agree. And the fact that your extended family is trying to fight you guys on this, while also giving some kind of like, "Oh, well, if you're not going, I'm not going," as if the whole wedding's gonna fall apart just because your husband's not going. Like, that is honestly so crazy to me. Do they not care that you're about to give birth and this really could be like detrimental to your health? Because in my opinion, it really seems like they just don't care about you. So no, you're not the jerk, because this literally is what the doctor ordered. And if they can't understand that or appreciate that, then that literally is their problem to deal with, because they're the ones that scheduled this wedding date and not you. My roommate screams at me in a way that honestly really insulted me, as he literally chased me into the street just so I would engage in his drama. So I decided to get some petty revenge by quite literally clearing out that apartment top to bottom by taking all my stuff out so that he could not enjoy anything that I had to offer. And I'm honestly so glad that I finally got away from him. Here's what happened. I split an apartment for affordability with an acquaintance and friend who turned out to be a textbook narcissist nepo baby with borderline personality traits. After an especially egregious blow-up where he yelled at me and followed me out of the house into the street screaming insults at me just to try and get me to engage in his drama, I decided I was done trying to maintain peace until the apartment contract ended soon. I then began to move out my stuff from the kitchen, bathroom, and living room. My giant beanbag that he loved to relax in, well, I gave it away. My nightstand by the couch that he had stuff in, I set his stuff on the ground and I gave it away. My decorations and plants that made it cozy, I gave it to a friend. My modem and router for the internet, well, oops, it must have stopped working. I mean, the living room was barren. The toilet paper and paper towels I restocked because it simply wasn't worth fighting over before, well, is now hidden in my room. Even my dishes and plates that he benefited from, I stored them at a friend's house, while also ensuring that the cleaning that I do to keep the shared space from being nasty just basically didn't happen anymore. At this point, I didn't care. His dishes just started piling up and I thought to myself, oh well, not my circus. At this point, I just used the gray rock method. I went as no contact as feasible, and I avoided being home when possible until the lease ended and I could finally move out. And thankfully, I never spoke to him ever again because that guy was a nightmare to deal with. Wow, what a weirdo, seriously. This guy chased you out of the house screaming at you. And I think you're right, just from the sounds of it, it really does seem like he's some kind of like weird narcissist, literally only trying to antagonize you so he can have someone to yell at. That is seriously obnoxious, and I'm glad you got away from them, because I know for a fact I would not be able to live in that kind of situation. Today, I got some petty revenge by returning the trash that someone had illegally dumped in front of my front yard, and it was truly so satisfying to put it right back on their lawn, as it really was gross that they did this in the first place. Here's what happened. For over a decade, I rented a house that had been vacant for a while. It's an old lady's house who had passed away a couple of years ago. Her elderly daughter lived almost an hour away and had been trying to rent it out instead of selling it because the house value was still low, because the housing market had not recovered after the 2008 financial crisis yet. Well, I woke up on trash day only to see two large black trash bags at the end of my driveway sitting right next to the garbage can, and I thought to myself, what in the world is going on? I then went outside and decided to rummage through them. Fortunately for me, the dumper was dumb enough to leave a piece of mail inside one of the bags that had literally their address written right on it. So I looked up the address online, and lo and behold, the address was only a mile and a half away. And since I was unemployed at the time, I had plenty of time to drive over there and give them back their trash. I wrote down the directions on a piece of paper since I didn't have a smartphone at the time, and I wouldn't get one until almost 2016. I then started driving over while thinking about what I was going to say, and I'm honestly not even sure if I thought of anything clever. So I went and I knocked on their door, but there was no answer. So I decided to chuck the bags on their lawn and go back home. A week or two later, there were some additional items like kids' toys and rocking horses next to my bin on trash day, but there were no bags with mail, so I couldn't really do anything about it. But thankfully, after that, there was no more illegal dumping, because that truly was incredibly annoying. Honestly, I can't understand why anyone would ever do this unless they're seriously trying to hide something. Like, why would you drive a mile and a half just to throw something away? And especially on a property that probably looks like somebody lives there. Like, there's a car in the driveway, it's not like nobody's there. So the fact that they went out of their way to go to your house and be like, okay, we'll dump the trash here, like, that's really weird and kind of sketchy as well. But good for you for getting these people sorted out pretty quickly and for figuring out exactly who did this, because this kind of behavior is super gross and I don't blame you for being upset. Am I the jerk for locking my cousin out of my house after they came home at 4 o'clock in the morning after literally drinking all night with their friends on their birthday? Here's what happened. Okay, so my cousin, who we will call James, came to visit me and my husband last weekend for his birthday. We celebrated James's birthday Friday night, and on Saturday, he said he was going to go have dinner with a few of his friends in town. He specifically told me that his plans were to go have dinner with them and come back to my place afterwards to stay in and watch some movies. He left my house at around 4 o'clock p.m. and he texted me at around 7 asking when would be a respectful time to come back, as he was spending the night at my house. Well, I told him that I know it's his birthday and he is with his friends he doesn't get to see often, and he is an adult, so I'm not going to give him a curfew. I just told him to call me and let me know when he was on his way back so we can avoid him ringing the doorbell and waking up my son. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, when bars typically close, I texted him when he was going to get back, but I didn't get a reply. By 3 o'clock in the morning, I figured he was sleeping at his friend's place, so I just went to bed. And before going to bed, I texted him to let him know that in case he was still coming back, there is a spare key that he can use to get in the house. And then I went to bed. Well, at around 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to someone ringing our doorbell. This woke up my son and he was scared and crying. My husband and I woke up irritated. I look at the camera and James was outside ringing our doorbell. When I opened the door, James was fuming. He was mad that I had locked him out of the house when I said I would be there to let him in. I asked him why he ignored my text messages, as I told him where the spare key was, and he said his phone died and I should have just given him the keys before he left. Now, James was getting very loud, so I told him that either he can calm down and go to sleep, or he would have to find somewhere else to sleep. So James went to our guest bedroom, he grabbed his things, and he slept in the car. Fast forward, and earlier this week, I was talking to my sister about the situation, and she called me a jerk because I told James that I would wait for him and that I had made a drunk person sleep in their car. Well, I feel justified, but James is also still not talking to me. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this really pisses me off because James is super irresponsible. For him to come back at 4 o'clock in the morning, ringing the doorbell as if you're supposed to wait on him hand and foot, like, that is crazy in my opinion. Like, he is literally inconveniencing everybody in that house and not thinking about anybody except for himself. And it's like, oh, okay, your phone died, but that's his problem and not yours. Why is the original poster somehow responsible for this guy being irresponsible? And I think the way that you handle this is perfect. This guy seriously was raising his voice at you. Like, that is so uncalled for. I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would have kicked him out as well. I would have said to him, look, you can either calm down or you gotta go. So I really do love the fact that you did that, because that absolutely was uncalled for. her. And in my opinion, I think James is 100% at fault in this situation. My toxic boyfriend told me that he will block me from going to South Korea if I actually follow through with breaking up with him. But after a lot of back and forth between the two of us, I'm honestly feeling very confused and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been planning to go to South Korea this year after July, but we have been fighting a lot lately, mostly because I feel like I'm being taken for granted because of money. My boyfriend always asks for things, but he knows I don't have a lot of money. He told me that I have to take care of him and that basically my money is his money. I never ask him for anything except for love, respect, and loyalty. My boyfriend said he felt taken for granted because he loves me, and this is just one of our fights that we have. Well, I tried to break it off recently with him because I don't feel that I'm being appreciated and I am being taken for granted. I'm starting to see who my boyfriend really is, and he is very jealous and very crazy. He always tells me that I am never allowed to leave this relationship. If I choose to leave, then he will come and find me. I cannot hide from him. I am his forever, and no one is allowed to have me. I want to leave this relationship because I am done with him. I am done with this constant fighting. After another one of our fights, and this fight once again went back to being taken for granted, and he was literally yelling at me, telling me that I am not allowed to break off this relationship, that he knows that I'm cheating on him. But no matter how many times I tell him that I'm not cheating, he will say to me, if you're not cheating, then you wouldn't be breaking up with me. But I just told him we are done. He then told me that because I broke his heart and do not want to be with him anymore, he will block me from entering South Korea. He told me he has friends in high places and he will contact the immigration office and put me on some kind of no entry list. And he said he will contact his lawyer as well. He then sent me a message stating that if I want to go to South Korea, then I have to go with him. He says that I have to marry him if I want to enter South Korea. And if I do not marry him, then I am not allowed to enter the country. I have been planning to go to South Korea for a long time before I even met him. And now that I have everything ready to go, I'm worried that my dreams will be stopped by a guy who cannot handle a breakup. So seriously, can he block me from entering the country? I really need some advice on this because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, this is insane. Like, this guy seriously sounds crazy. He's really trying to say like, oh yeah, you can't go to South Korea unless we get married. You're never breaking up with me. You can't break up with me. If you're breaking up with me, that must mean you're cheating. Like, dude, what is going on right now? This is not normal behavior. This guy is out of his mind, and in my opinion, he sounds kind of dangerous. He sounds like a desperate weirdo, and in my opinion, I would not take this lightly because the way he's acting is like super strange, trying to make it sound like he has ownership over you or something like that. So to state the obvious, no, this idiot can't block you from entering the country, but also like look at the subtext here because the way he's talking is super dangerous. So in my opinion, I think it would be wise to put South Korea on the back burner and maybe say to yourself, listen, I need to get away from this guy first before you ever consider going to South Korea because this guy does not sound like a very safe person in the slightest. And I think it would be safer for you altogether to get away from him and disconnect so that he can no longer negatively affect your life. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother out of my house after he literally came over there only to hook up with another girl? Here's what happened. Okay, so I live with my mom in a 3-bedroom house. My parents are recently separated, so my brother stays with my dad elsewhere in a bigger home. The spare bedroom in our 3-bedroom place also isn't fully furnished yet, and this will be relevant later on. My brother and I are fairly close, but have a strained history because I'm sort of the black sheep of the family. I am more vocal and I tend to call out BS when I see it, and I advocate for others, while my brother is less vocal about issues and tends to try to pacify and people-please situations to ease. In an odd way, this has made us closer over the years, especially during our parents' split. My mom is out of town for a week, and so I'm alone in the house. Last night, my brother and I went out with our respective friend groups and found ourselves at the same event. He was jovial and walked me around the room, proudly introducing me to all of his friends, calling me his mini-me. It was overall a really good night. He left sooner than I did, but came back asking me for the keys to the house. I figured, oh, he probably wants to have a few drinks with his friends, so I just happily gave them to him. But once I got back to the house, my friend and I walked into him with a girl. He was clearly trying to set a vibe and had a mood going. When I asked him if he was staying overnight, he says, yeah, I'm gonna take mom's bed. And I was honestly really appalled. Spending quality time with some stranger in mom's bed? I mean, seriously right now? I should note that I'm African and I come from a conservative country. I'm not bothered by him wanting to hook up, but it's jarring to me that he came into my home right as my mom is gone to then use her room to bed someone else. Like, why couldn't he have just gone to our dad's place or gotten an Airbnb or something like that? I've been going through a pretty tough time too, so all of my other emotions, topped off with the feeling that this was a disrespectful thing to do, came to a head at that moment. I then curtly asked him when he was leaving so I could lock up the house and go to bed. Once upstairs upstairs with my friend, I sent him a text stating how hurt and pissed off I was about the situation. He then soon left as I was upstairs ranting to my friend about everything, and I think he heard all of it. Granted, I was drunk, and now that I'm sober, I still feel that his intentions were disrespectful. I do feel really guilty that I may have embarrassed him, and feel that I may have wrecked our relationship for the time being. I apologize for embarrassing him, and I explained why I feel the way that I do. So honestly, am I the jerk in the situation? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. No, I do not think that you're in the wrong at all. Your brother literally doesn't live there. He doesn't stay at your house, and the fact that he was trying to hook up in your mom's bed? Like, seriously? What's going on right now? That is so gross. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking him out, because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. An entitled Karen freaks out on me in the worst case of road rage I've ever seen in my life. So I decided to get some revenge by humiliating her at her job in front of all of her coworkers. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in the country. I was driving my baby to daycare early one beautiful spring morning in 2023, and the daycare is located near the town center in a fancy little village. There is a large, widely spaced four-way stop sign at the village entrance, about half a mile from the daycare, and most of the time it's very quiet and never really busy. On said morning, I was talking to my baby about the day. I went through the stop intersection, and shortly thereafter, I noticed a car tailgating me very aggressively and honking their horn. Now, this is while we're going through a residential village at like 20 miles an hour, but I just brushed it off, thinking the person was just in a rush or had a bad morning of some kind. I thought nothing of it because I was about to get out of their way by pulling into the daycare's driveway. Well, suddenly they turned in after me, so I got a little bit scared. But once they pulled in next to me, that's when I really got scared. I unbuckle my baby, talking to her calmly because I don't know what's about to happen, when suddenly this entitled Karen jumps out of her car and starts screaming at me at full volume. Mind you, it's 7:45 in the morning on a beautiful day, so I was so surprised. Apparently, I cut her off at the four-way stop sign, and I replied by saying, "Oh, so that's why you were tailgating me," which is an inflammatory remark, I guess, but honestly, I had just figured it out, and I was congratulating myself. I didn't intend to be rude. I immediately apologized, saying I didn't realize, but she kept screaming at me in front of my baby, and she literally wouldn't stop. I was completely confused as to why she was so upset. I will admit that I'm not a morning person, so I wasn't firing on all cylinders. I then apologized a few more times, and then I said, "It's a beautiful day, let's just move on." I then turned my back on her and I went inside, which I guess was the wrong choice to make. Well, it turns out she was another parent at the daycare, and she went to the center director to complain about my driving, saying that I made it unsafe for her. I then got called in and they warned me to drive safer, and I was so mad. She went out of her way to make my life harder at my kid's school, so I knew that I would never forget that lady's face. Well, fast forward 2 years, and I have a doctor's appointment in the same town, and when I walk into the office, guess who's in the receptionist area? Yeah, it's the lady that screamed at me. She knew too because she wouldn't make any eye contact. I took the clipboard and I seethed for a little bit while I filled it out, trying to talk myself down, but that simply didn't work. So it turns out I'm incredibly petty because I definitely handed the clipboard back to her, and I said loudly for the whole office to hear, "Oh, I know you. Do you remember that one time when you screamed at me at 7:45 in the morning, all about a stop sign? I know I cut you off by accident, but I apologized, and it was super lame of you to scream at me in our kid's school parking lot about it. That's what pathetic people do." Well, the whole time I did this lady just stared at her keyboard. Her coworker didn't though, and neither did the other people in the waiting room. They absolutely loved it, and honestly, so did I. Man, I love it when there's like a long play of some kind of like petty revenge, because the lady in the story who screamed at the original poster absolutely had it coming. Listen, in my opinion, it is just not safe out there to approach someone about some kind of road rage incident. It really could end poorly and somebody could get hurt or worse, especially in today's day and age. Like honestly, people are crazy out there. Who knows who you're actually approaching on the street, let alone at a daycare of all places. But good for you for making this lady know exactly how rude she was being, even though you had to do it a few years later, because the way she treated you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I recently found out that my family had been bullying my fiance for years, and now after it got exposed in front of the entire family, they are now begging for my forgiveness. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my fiance and I have been dating for 6 years. We had met each other's families several times throughout our relationship, and I thought that everything was going well on both ends. His mom and I loved each other's company, and I thought my family liked my fiance until recently. He had proposed to me 3 months ago, and we immediately started planning our wedding. I wanted to organize a dinner with his mom and my family, but my fiance strongly opposed, proposed. And this shocked me because he's usually so soft-spoken. I didn't push any further because he didn't feel like talking about it, and we planned to tell both of them separately. We invited my parents and siblings to my house last week, and we told them about the proposal. Well, my family was silent, with my mom breaking the silence by asking me to go to another room so that they could talk. We then had a small argument, and that's when I found out that my family didn't approve of my fiance. She said they didn't say anything to me until now because they thought I would break up with him. When I asked why, she called him womanish and too feminine. I yelled at her and she yelled back, but we stopped when we heard fighting in the dining room. When I ran in, I saw my fiance punching my dad over and over, while my brothers and sisters tried to pull him off. I then helped my siblings pull my fiance off, and I tried to calm him and my dad down. My dad and siblings told me that he just started attacking my dad out of nowhere, but my fiance said that my dad had called him the F slur, you know, the one for gay men, and then made a joke of my fiance's dead father. Now, I believe my fiance, and I told them what my mom had said. A bigger argument broke out, and I kicked them out of my house. I talked with my fiance, and he said this wasn't the first time that my family insulted him. He told me that they would belittle him for his feminine hobbies and would poke fun at his lower paying job. He said that when we would go to my family, they would wait until I wasn't around to tell him those things, and that he just ignored it up until this point. The next morning, I called my family, and I told them about everything I found out. Now, they tried denying it, but my second oldest brother didn't seem to care and said that they did it to prove that there was something wrong with him. I then hung up the phone and I ignored their efforts to reach me afterwards. They apologized and said that they were trying to protect me. They then invited me to family counseling and said that they would try and be better. They even tried apologizing to my fiance, but he didn't accept it. Now, I want to believe their apologies and let them back into my life, but I also don't want to hurt my fiance. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be completely honest. Either you're completely oblivious to how your fiance is actually feeling and the way he's being treated by your family, or your fiance is a complete psychopath who snapped all of a sudden for no reason. Like, I'm willing to bet that your fiance actually was being made fun of by your family, and you either turned a blind eye to it or you just were not paying attention. And both of those scenarios are really awful for your fiance, because you said it yourself. Him freaking out and punching your dad in the face is so out of character for him, it's honestly not even funny. So in my mind, someone like that is not going to get pushed to the brink of their sanity unless something seriously wrong has been going on. So not only is your entire family awful and so toxic, but also it seems like everybody across the board sucks at communicating. And I'm talking about you, your fiance, and the rest of your family. Allegedly, this has been going on for years, and your fiance didn't say anything about it. Like, if I had a partner whose family was doing that to me, the first second that happened, I would have gone to my fiance and been like, hey, wait a second. These people are being really mean to me. You need to make this stop. I wouldn't put up with it for several years and not say anything. Also, your family is pretty awful as well. They literally have been trashing this guy to his face while you're not around, and then have decided not to say anything, and only once you've gotten engaged are they like, okay, we wanted to talk to you about this. And it's like, no, you didn't. You didn't actually care at all. You just wanted to put my fiance down, and that's it. So truly, everybody across the board in this story really sucks, and hopefully this works out for you guys in some kind of way. Because in my opinion, your fiance does not deserve this level of negligence or verbal mistreatment, because the way he's been treated is absolutely unacceptable. My toxic assistant manager treated me and the rest of my coworkers like crap, even going as far as telling me to shut my mouth and do as I'm told. So one day I decided to maliciously comply by following her orders exactly as described, and thus proving once and for all how stupid she truly was. Here's what happened. When I was in college, I worked as a baker in a well-known regional bagel and sandwich chain. At some point, an assistant manager transferred to my store who was the stereotypical petty, power-tripping, ridiculous manager that you would find in this type of job. Her specialty was yelling at and berating employees in front of customers, and I will never not believe that she enjoyed publicly humiliating people. It was tolerable all the way until I agreed to cover a shift at the store she transferred from. Someone there asked me what I thought of her, and I thought I was careful, as I just commented that she had very high expectations, which were very hard for some people to meet, and that was the understatement of the year. Well, this lovely person passed this back to her, which put me at the top of her list. What followed was a series of write-ups for egregious violations, like missing some seeds when mopping the floor, or not emptying a garbage can that had a single paper towel in it. Luckily for me, I was one of the few people there certified to run the ovens. My opportunity for malicious compliance came one Saturday lunchtime when a charter bus pulled up to our store. Now, I had seen this before, and I knew that a bus full of people buying sandwiches is equivalent to 2 to 3 people bringing bagels to work, which is barely a blip compared to morning rush. I went to the counter to help, and Miss Assistant Manager yells at me to get back into the kitchen and start baking more. I tried to tell her we were fine, but as soon as I opened my mouth, she yelled at me and said, "Shut your mouth. Do what I told you and don't stop baking until I say stop. Now, 2 important things to know here. First of all, when I took my certification test, they told me I passed it with the second fastest time on record for the local franchise. The second thing is that the ovens were adjustable. You could turn up the heat to speed up the cooking process. I went back to the baking area and I cranked up the oven and I baked as fast as I possibly could. The ovens had 8 shelves holding about 48 bagels each. Eventually, I had them all filled up and was only slowed down by how fast I could cook them and how fast I could send them up front. Miss Assistant Manager was down at the register this entire time and was not paying attention to the stock levels in the bagel bins, but I kept bringing out shelf after shelf. At one point, the bins were overflowing, so I had to start putting them in extra bins that we had in the back, and once those were full, I started putting them in and on metal trays. The crowd finally died down, and Miss Assistant Manager finally looks at the bagel bins and realizes she never told me to stop. She then asked me if there was anything still baking, and I informed her that every shelf was full. She then lost it and started yelling that I was getting fired until multiple people pointed out that I just did exactly what she asked. The store manager ended up coming in, and pretty much everyone told them the exact same story. Mrs. Assistant Manager had to bag up the mountains of excess bagels and then drive them to all the other stores in the area just so they wouldn't go to waste. Even after that, we still exceeded the allowed wastage for the day, and she was the one that got reprimanded. Now, she still yelled at everyone after that, but she was, at the very least, a bit more careful with her wording. Yeah, I can't stand managers who act like that, who come in with this awful attitude and treat you and the rest of the employees like garbage. Like, seriously, that's so rude, it's not even fair. And the way she talked to you, like, my God. Anyone who would tell me to shut my mouth and do what I'm told, that's the second we're gonna have problems. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. And this is literally just a bagel and sandwich shop. Like, it's not that important of a job. So for her to act like this is honestly just some weird power trip. But overall, I love the way you handle this, because I think in a roundabout way, you showed this lady exactly how stupid she was acting. An entitled jerk screams at me and the rest of my staff after he doesn't get exactly what he wants, shouting that he wants his accounts canceled right now as he's not getting the service that he demands. So I decide to maliciously comply by doing exactly that and canceling all of his accounts, resulting in one of the biggest blowups I've ever seen in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work as a support manager for a company that sells credit card readers and other services for processing money. Our story starts with a phone call that one of our newest staff members received. The caller does not introduce themselves and instead loudly demands to speak to no less than the CEO of the company and will not give any information aside from his repeated demands and some indirect swearing. Normally, this would earn them a terminated call, but I want to know who has the guts to scream at my staff, so I have him transferred over. Having had some of these calls before, I introduce myself with a very fancy title and ensure the caller that whatever his support needs are, I can handle them without any kind of issue. The CEO is busy at the moment, and I'm the next person in line in the support organization. Now, this is not entirely true, but it really works to calm people down and get them to tell me what is actually the problem. Now, the caller in this story is called Steve, and not just any Steve, mind you, but Steve, the owner of Steve's Cafe. And not just one Steve's Cafe, mind you, but the owner of all 7 of Steve's Cafe. Steve is apparently offended that he was given to me and not the CEO like he demanded. He is the owner, you see, and he needs to talk to the owner and not me. Because, you know, I don't own 7 cafes, and I certainly don't own my company. So I just simply cannot understand Steve's needs and can't make the hard choices he needs made. But I again assure him that I do have the position and authority to do anything he requires. I am the manager of the support department. I can make any changes that he requires. I can set up new accounts or order new devices, anything that he might need. He only needs to tell me his problem and I can provide the solution. I will support him. Well, his next words are immediate and aggressive. Can you cancel my accounts? Well, yes, I can. I inform him that we need a written request to cancel, and I also try to inquire why he needs to cancel his accounts. This is a standard procedure. If he wants to cancel his accounts, then we close his accounts, but any feedback is also useful. Is he leaving because our product was bad, because our service was bad, or because he found a better deal? But before I can even get a few words out of him, he shouts again, "Have the CEO call me. He has my number." And then he disconnects the call. Well, I report this up the chain, and I get back that no email means no cancellation, but still the bosses need to know. First thing the next morning, I get invited to an emergency meeting by the CEO, as well as a few other important people. We go over what happened, and then I'm shown an email. Steve managed to find the CEO's internal email address and sent him an email complaining about one of his 7 stores having a horrible time with the product. He is demanding no less than the cancellation of all of his accounts and a refund for 3 months of payments he has made for each, as the product is totally unusable. I check the logs and the problem location does indeed have a problem. That started yesterday morning. They are not down, but they are are having a bad time. There are no emails or calls informing us, just the screaming cancellation request. I send over the call logs and we listen to Steve scream, as well as curse at the support agent before he got sent over to me. And then I hear the words that cue my malicious compliance. Cancel my accounts. The meeting goes quiet. The CEO has spoken, and we cancel all 7 accounts and shut down services. They then start their day with devices that do not work. But once the calls come in, the CEO makes another decision. They say that the account is canceled and that we need to follow procedure. So each manager calls me frantically, explaining that nothing is working, but the staff apologetically tell them that their account was canceled per their owner's email and that we can no longer provide any support. Shortly thereafter, the owner calls in and once again is screaming to turn them back on, uncancel them this instant, get the devices working because he is losing money. I check with the CEO and after receiving a nod, I say, well, per your request made over the phone yesterday and your email this morning, your accounts have been canceled. At this point, Steve just gets madder and says he didn't mean to actually cancel them. He just wanted to let us know what would happen if we didn't fix his issue. He then continues to yell. I let the CEO know and at his request, I transfer Steve to his office phone. Now, I wish there was a satisfying ending to this story, but Steve and our boss did talk it over. Steve was informed that his behavior was unacceptable, and Steve admitted that he was expecting expedited service and possibly a discount when he threatened to cancel, and basically said he didn't really want to cancel his accounts. He just wanted support to take him seriously and transfer him up the chain so that he could get faster, better service. Now, obviously, there was no real apology, though both I and the initial support agent were told that Steve would behave himself from now on and to report if he didn't. Services were then resumed and all 7 locations were opened a bit late. The one location that did have issues yesterday got on the phone with a support agent and were sorted out in a reasonable amount of time, and all is right in heaven and earth. But I do hope Steve learned that threatening to cancel your account sometimes leads to you actually getting your account canceled and not some kind of discount like you were expecting in the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna say what we're all thinking. I hate Steve and I hate the CEO. I hate Steve because he actually got away with treating the staff like garbage, and I hate the CEO because he literally let this slide. That guy is a massive piece of crap and I can't believe he allowed that to happen. Seriously, you let your staff get treated like garbage and you allowed this guy to come back in as some kind of client of yours? Like, do you not care about the well-being of the people who are literally taking care of your business? Like, that is disgusting. I can't stand managers who act like that or customers who try to be like, oh, you should cancel my accounts. I can't stand you. Only to then freak out and be like, well, I didn't actually mean it. Why'd you actually think I was serious? You know, it's not like you were screaming and like cursing on the phone at people. That wouldn't be a good indicator that you're pissed off and you want to cancel your service. It's like, come on, like that is so weird and so dumb. In my opinion, and I really think this is true, the way you treat people in customer service, whether you're the owner or a customer of some kind, absolutely reflects the kind of person you are on the inside. And trust me, I get it. I know that everybody has a bad customer service experience where the person trying to serve you is not doing a good job and they really suck at their job. They're lazy, they don't care, and they're just not doing what they need to do. But I would seriously argue that that's just an outlier situation and that most people just want to do their job, get money, and go home. Like at the end of the day, we're all just trying to make rent. And if you treat me with respect, I guarantee you will get it back. That's my philosophy at least. Maybe you feel differently. And if you do, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. But overall, I think Steve sucks and so does the CEO. And the fact that this situation didn't result in Steve getting banned, in my opinion, is incredibly upsetting. Am I the jerk for walking away from a friend-owned business after they literally tried to take advantage of my work while giving me no respect and no reward for my efforts? Because right now they're saying I'm a bad friend, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been friends with someone for a while now, and they came up with an idea for an app and asked me to develop it. They are handling the business side of things, while I'm responsible for the entire technical department. At first, I was willing to help out, but things quickly started to feel off when we discussed how we would split the rewards. The situation became really frustrating when they suggested I would only receive a small portion of the rewards for my work, while they took the majority of it. They argued that since the idea was theirs, they deserved more. I felt like they didn't understand the amount of work that goes into developing an app, and it was as if they were devaluing my skills while saying things like, I could just learn this on my own, or even saying, I can handle the business side, and that's the important part. It honestly really bothered me. They seemed to believe that the idea that they came up with was somehow worth all the effort and technical skill I'd put into the actual building of it. Over time, I started feeling completely unappreciated, like they thought of me as more of a tool to execute their idea rather than an equal partner in the process. Every time I brought up concerns, they would brush them off or act like I was overreacting. They made me feel small, like I was the one who should be grateful for the opportunity to help them. They even made it sound like I should just be happy to do the work and accept whatever I was given, no matter how unfair. Eventually, I realized that I wasn't being treated with respect, and so I decided to walk away. Now, they're saying I'm a bad friend and that I let them down, but honestly, I couldn't stay in a situation where I was being undervalued and disrespected. So seriously, am I the jerk for not accepting a deal that would basically leave me working for peanuts while they walk away with all the credit and reward? Because right now, I'm incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is so toxic, it's not even funny. These people literally took advantage of your skill set just to use you to make money on their side of things. And it's ironic because these people say, oh yeah, we're gonna handle the business side of things. And it's like, oh, okay, you're gonna handle that side of it, but what about my side of it? You literally would have nothing if I didn't develop the app in the first place. Like, you're the one with the technical skills, and if anything, you're the one that could learn their business side of things and not the other way around. Not in a million years could they do what you're doing. That's why they brought you on board, because they know they can't and don't want to do it. And that really is the truth in my opinion. So the fact that they're not giving you more credit for what you're literally building for them, like, that is honestly insane in my opinion, and that goes so much further than just putting your name on the application. This involves a monetary split, and guess what? You have every right to expect more out of them. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for walking away from these idiots, because in my opinion, they 100% were taking advantage of you, and you definitely did not deserve that. An entitled jerk demands that I pay for my community college class the next day simply because they were too lazy to process it right this second. So I decided to get some petty revenge by paying for my class in hundreds of dollars worth of nickels. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that yes, this was 100% petty, and honestly, I have a pretty good reason for it. I went to a community college for a while, and as part of my degree plan pathway to transfer to the university, I needed a specific class, but the community college that I went to didn't offer it, whereas another community college in the same district did. The problem was my scholarship didn't cover it up front, so I had to pay the tuition for the one class and get reimbursed later. So I went to go enroll in the class because it was such an obscure class and I had to go deal with it in person. Well, they made you go through several steps, meaning that you had to see an advisor, then they would tell you whether you were doing the right thing for your degree plan, and this advisor was a moron. I actually wondered if she could even feed herself with a spoon without putting her eye out. After she was finally able to locate the course, which by the way took some difficulty since she kept looking it up in the wrong area, her response when she pulled it up on the computer was to say, "Why do you want to take that class? That looks really hard." Even though I had already explained twice what I was doing and why. After some completely unnecessary haggling, she finally signed off on me being able to enroll. So after that, I just needed to visit the cashier and pay. But the cashier was every bit as stupid as the advisor, possibly even more so. When I explained that I was paying for a single course, she tried to tell me that I needed to be enrolled full time and that she couldn't do anything about it. I literally had to go get an actual note from the advisor that gave me an override, even though it wasn't necessary, to let me give them actual money. When I got back to the cashier, she looked at the paperwork and seemed very upset. Apparently, I was making her have to do things like, her job. She said that I should change my major because having to do the extra work on her end was too hard, and she didn't feel like doing it. And it's like, oh, okay, thank you for your unsolicited opinion. She then told me they couldn't accept payments that day for some made-up reason, and that I had to come back the next day. So after that, I decided I was going to annoy her. So in the morning, I went to the bank and I got the entire tuition in nickels, and this was roughly like $300. Then I proudly walked into the cashier's office with a box full of nickels that I had gotten about halfway through unwrapping. The cashier was there and said that now she could take my money. So I picked up the box of nickels and I said it was all there. Well, the look on her face was priceless. If you could capture equal parts anger, disgust, irritation, as well as sadness and despair wash over her in about 2 seconds, all after her smug look when I first walked up, it would have been a work of art. I had to wait around while she counted the nickels, and it was honestly completely worth it. Once she finished, I got my receipt, and I left her wondering what she was going to do with all of those nickels. And like I said, it was incredibly petty, but in my opinion, it was completely worth it. Okay, honestly, I can kind of see why the original poster would do this, because seriously, that is so annoying. These people repeatedly told you, this is taking too much work, you can't do this today. You should change your major, I don't like this. Or just literally not wanting to do your job at all. Like, my God, I'm so sorry that you have to do your job today, but I really want to get this done. And the fact that you're making this difficult is making me go insane. So seriously, in my opinion, I'm so glad that you paid in nickels, because this is something I've dreamed of doing for a company that I don't like. And I just love the fact that I saw this in action, because this truly was incredibly satisfying. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com patreon.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled boss demands that we only dress in business attire, despite the fact that all other departments on Friday get to wear blue jeans. So we decide to maliciously comply by not only embarrassing her, but also making sure that she never does anything like this ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened many years ago. I worked for a top US banking institution. In our building, all the other departments were allowed to wear blue jeans on Fridays, but my manager decided that our department had to wear business attire on Fridays. To be clear, we had no customer-facing presence, and also our department processes check deposits from ATMs, and they came in mesh bags from the armored courier. They were usually quite filthy and were frequently wet in bad weather. So when our manager told us that we couldn't wear blue jeans on Fridays like every other department, the entire team was upset, and this is where our malicious compliance came into play. The next Friday, I went to my closet, and I found the most mismatched outfit I could possibly put together, but also sticking completely to the business attire requirement. And we are talking pastel floral print shirt with pants with bold colored stripes. So I put it on and I proudly walked into the office. Now my manager just happened to be on vacation that week, so nothing was said about my ridiculous mismatched outfit. But fast forward to next Friday, and I once again chose the most hideous combination of an outfit that I could possibly put together. Once again, I walked into the office with my head held high, confident in my business attire. Well, imagine my surprise as my boss walks in and sees everyone in their various hideous outfits. The look on her face was absolutely priceless. All 15 of us in hideous outfits, but all meeting the business attire dress code. She then pulled all of us into a meeting and told us that our attire was entirely inappropriate for a business environment and that she would have to write each and every one of us up. I then asked her to pull out the company handbook and read the definition of what it said as business attire. Well, she read it, and it stated something like a clean and pressed business attire consisting of slacks, skirts or dresses, and clean pressed shirts and blouses. It went on to say something like no blue jeans, no t-shirts, no ripped or clothing with holes in them, no sleeveless shirts, and no athletic or gym shoes. I then asked her where in the guidelines does it say anything about whether the outfits matched or not. Well, she couldn't find anything and said that she would have to contact HR to discuss with them what her options were to write us up. Well, needless to say, none of us were written up. She did, however, say we still needed to dress in business attire. Word quickly spread to other departments about her forcing us to wear business attire. And the next week, 2 departments around us decided that they would also dress up in hideously matched clothing. The managers of those departments quickly got in touch with our manager and put pressure on her as they didn't like how their employees were dressing. Our manager called us into a meeting and told us that we could wear blue jeans on Fridays going forward, which to me is absolutely a huge win. I love this for so many reasons, but most of all, you got back at this lady for a stupid rule. Seriously, it's Friday and you don't work in any kind of customer-facing position, so there really is no reason why you can't just wear blue jeans in the back as you're looking at checks and all this other stuff. Like, she could have easily bent the rules and been like, okay, wear blue jeans on Fridays, it's not a big deal. And then that would be that. Like, seriously, just give it a rest. So good for you for following the rules, but also showing her how stupid she was acting, because honestly, her attitude was incredibly annoying. Am I the jerk for not wanting to come to my mom's house, all because my sister's fiance is always there? Because right now I'm honestly very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female and I just want to know if I'm overreacting about this situation. So for a bit of backstory, my sister and her fiance got engaged in April of 2024. She comes home nearly every weekend and he always comes with her. I lived at home from January 2024 until October of 2024, all while I was finishing my clinical rotations. My dad had cancer and life was truly a mess. I didn't really notice then how much I didn't like having my sister's fiance around every weekend, because at the time I was living at home and was able to relax the rest of the week away from him. I moved an hour away for a new job in October of 2024 and would come to my parents nearly every weekend because of my dad and his condition. Sadly, he passed away this January and my home visits have been much less frequent, which has caused some tension with my mom while also having to deal with the stress of the drive. I was super close with my dad and I wanted to spend as much time with him as I could just in case. I went home this weekend to visit and I already wasn't feeling great because I've had a sinus infection all week and I jacked my knee up at work. I knew my sister would be home this weekend, but she made it sound like her fiance wouldn't be there. Well, surprise, surprise, when I walked in the door, I saw him and instantly I felt this irritation that I hadn't felt in a while. I was nice and cordial, of course, but I was truly disappointed knowing that he was there because there was so much I wanted to talk to my sister and mom about alone, primarily related to my dad. Now, he's not a bad guy, but he is super sarcastic and not a very touchy-feely kind of guy, so I'm not comfortable sharing any of those feelings in front of him, and I can barely bring myself to talk privately with my mom in my parents' bedroom, all because of my dad. The other thing is that he's not nice to my dog at all. all. He yells at him a lot and acts all annoyed with him all the time, and my dog can be annoying, but he's generally well behaved. He just asks for pets sometimes, and this annoys her fiance. Well, I started feeling physically worse and felt the trip was overall a waste since I got no actual time with my mom and sister since they were busy doing wedding planning stuff. The wedding is in May, so I'm obviously not mad at that, and they were getting their hair done and so on and so forth. Well, I just decided I didn't feel good and I wanted to go back home. So I texted my mom that I was leaving and that I was sorry about the short notice. She then texted me later to see how I was doing, and I said I was feeling somewhat depressed and just sick in general. Now, I don't know why I did, but I also told her the stuff about my sister's fiance and how I didn't feel comfortable talking with him around or how he treats my dog. I told her that she'd have to come visit me from now on because I just don't like feeling uncomfortable in the place I used to live, and I want my dog to feel free to be a dog. Now, at this, she kind of made me feel bad, as she said that he was going to be family, but I told her that he's not family to me and he never will be. And I think it's then that I realized just how much I don't like him when I said that. My sister would be devastated if I ever told her that, so I won't do that, but I genuinely just don't like the guy. He is sarcastic, he can be rude often, he thinks that he's always right, and picks on my sister at times with things that bother her. They are always play arguing, and what I mean by that is that they argue but in like an unserious tone of voice, but the content is the same every single time. I don't know, I think that some of these things have just been crawling under my skin for a while, and they're just bursting to the surface now. The other small thing that bothered me was he didn't show any emotion when my dad was in the ICU or at his funeral, and he knew him for 2 years. He just sat there emotionless as my sisters, mom, and I bawled our eyes out. I know people deal with things differently, but it still bothers me to this day. So truly, am I overreacting in this situation? And please be honest with me, because I don't want to lose my family relationships, all because I don't like one person that I won't have to be around all the time. I'm just feeling somewhat guilty, but also struggling to decide if this is just a boundary of mine or if I'm being too harsh. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think you are overreacting just a little bit, and I think you may be grieving the loss of your father. And in that regard, I really am sorry for what you're going through, and I'm so sorry that he passed away. Like, that really must be so hard, and I can only imagine going through that. And in my opinion, it kind of sounds like you're taking it out on this fiance, because from the sounds of it, the only bad thing he does is get annoyed by your dog. Like, sure, he's sarcastic and he doesn't really take things seriously, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person. And just because he didn't cry at the funeral or show like any emotion, doesn't mean that he wasn't sad and that he didn't like care about your dad, because I'm sure that he did. And in regards to your sister and fiance having this weird relationship, honestly, it all just kind of seems harmless, and it seems like you just get annoyed by it really easily. But with all that in mind, if this guy really bothers you and you really don't like being around him, then that really is the one thing you can control. You can just choose to not be around him. And sure, that's easier said than done, I totally get it. But aside from him yelling at your dog, it doesn't seem like he's really doing anything to offend you or anything like that. So yes, in my opinion, I do think you're overreacting, and I really think this is something that can be easily solved. Am I overreacting for leaving my birthday dinner after my fiance announced a fake pregnancy? Here's what happened. Okay, so last night was my birthday dinner, and it was just a chill night with family and friends. Everything was going great until my fiance stands up to give a special toast. Then, out of nowhere, he says that we're so excited to announce that we are expecting. And it's like, wait a second, what are you talking about? When he said this, I just stared at him like he lost his mind because I am not pregnant. And at this point, he is smiling and my mom is crying and his family's clapping while I'm sitting there wondering what in the world is going on. I finally ask what he's talking about, and this man with a straight face says that he's been manifesting it and it's only a matter of time. Well, once he said that, I was done. I then got up and I left the restaurant. He then followed me all mad, saying I embarrassed him and I should have just gone along with it for the night. And now his family is blowing up my phone saying I ruined a beautiful moment. And it's like, seriously, what is that even about? So honestly, was I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly still incredibly pissed off. Oh my gosh, no. First off, you did not overreact, but also that is a huge red flag. You mean to tell me that this guy at your birthday dinner seriously made a fake pregnancy announcement? Like, are you kidding me right now? What is going on? That is such a toxic thing and so unbelievably weird. Like, I do hope you've informed the family that yeah, he was lying and that you're not actually pregnant, because there's no reason for anyone to be like, oh, you ruined a beautiful moment. It's like, hey, stupid, I'm not pregnant. My fiance literally just lied to all of you. So no, you didn't overreact, and in my opinion, I think you did the right thing, because what he did to you was completely unacceptable. My mom expects my husband to reach out to her for her medical procedure, despite the fact that he's currently in South Korea, saying that he simply doesn't care, and that if he did, he would reach out in the way that she wants. And I'm honestly so annoyed that right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom is getting a hip replacement tomorrow, but she always has medical procedures done, and this does happen pretty often. My husband and I are apart as we wait for our marriage visa to come through, and I'm very lucky I get to see him 3 times a year in his home country of South Korea, and I'm seeing him in a few weeks. From the previous times my mom has gotten procedures done, she always complains that my husband doesn't reach out to her. Last summer, she was in the hospital due to a stomach issue, and she asked if my husband knows. Now, I'm sorry, but why would I tell him about my mom being sick to her stomach and in the hospital? I told her no and that it's her private medical business. She then freaked out and claimed that I'm embarrassed over her. And I'm sorry, but what will he do about this? He's not even in the same country as us. I was also in the ER last summer with high blood pressure issues, and of course my husband knew, and he was supportive through phone calls, FaceTime, and text messages. But he is in a different country, and there's nothing seriously that he can do about it. My mom told me just now that my brother's girlfriend wished her good luck on her procedure, and then complained that my husband didn't reach out to her. My husband did say to me over the phone that he wishes her good luck, and I told her just that, but she claims that I probably didn't even tell him. She also said he's doing this all wrong, and I said, well, you can either take the best wishes that he's sending your way, or just continue whining. She didn't say anything after that, so I'm hoping that's the end of it. But I don't know if I'm being rude and if my husband is wrong. I just don't know why every time she has a medical procedure that she wants my husband to know and judges him if he doesn't reach out to her. I'm very private about my medical history, and if I'm in the hospital or going to a doctor, I don't want everyone to know, but I guess we're different in that sense. I just hate the fact that she's criticizing my husband over what I think is the dumbest reason, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I completely agree with the original poster here, because the mom in this story sounds really weird. Like, why is she complaining about this? The original poster literally relayed his message over to her mom, so why is she getting so upset that he isn't calling her personally? Like, that is so weird. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that just doesn't make any sense. Especially when the husband's in a different time zone. Like, the time you expect him to call you is probably like, what, 3 in the morning? So yeah, your mom is being super weird, and I think her behavior towards your husband is very childish. My entitled coworkers demand that I get them a new computer so that one of their interns can continue to do so well at their job. So I decided to maliciously comply by tricking them into giving them a system that literally is worse than the one they were complaining about. And I'm honestly so glad that I ended up getting away with it. Here's what happened. So I used to be the systems admin, engineer, and everything at a company of 300 people. Most of them were remote salespeople with laptops, and most of the salespeople had unpaid interns in this training program that, to me, seemed like an absolute nightmare. The interns were provisioned with any computer that I could cobble together, and part of the program was getting the commissions enough to earn an office and a computer. It seems stupid to me, but not my policies. These things were mid-grade Dell workstations when they were new, and had long surpassed their useful life cycle. The president, the co-owner, the vice president, human resources, and my leadership will not allow new equipment allocation to the interns under any circumstance. Not even $10 keyboards that come with new computers. It has to be decommissioned from an employee or sales rep to get into the hands of the interns. Well, another quirk about this company is that your service priority was determined by your performance in sales, which meant that mentors would advocate for their interns, and there was constant squabbling over who got less crappy equipment, and nearly every sales rep was a self-important jerk. One rep was having a particularly good year, and one of his interns had one of the better crap boxes, but complained about it constantly. I already pull the RAM and swap processors whenever possible, so this rep, we'll call him John for the sake of the story, calls me into his office every week or so just to disparage me because I'm the one responsible for his intern being held back. It's also important to note that reps are allowed to pay for gear for interns if they want to pay for it, but you know what? They never do. Eventually, the company vice president, who is, by the way, a self-important jerk that the president liked but failed utterly as a salesperson, calls me into his office to discuss my attitude. But I'm extremely professional at work, and I took the beating. The vice president knew the situation, but took John's side and ordered me to improve the situation in some way. Do something, anything to enable the success of the interns and make the sacrifices if I have to. So I thought, fine, let's do it. I had an off-brand computer case in my office that was gathering dust. It was there when I started, and I had no idea where it came from. Over the weekend, I transplanted everything in the intern's workstation to the computer case. Since it was coming from a Dell workstation, I had to remove all the slides and parts that make the things easy to service, but you know what? I made it fit. It was a rush job and a monstrosity, but I got the build time for it. I had to fashion a metal shim to cover the holes that the main board didn't extend to, but it worked and it had the same insides. Oh, and because it was such a mess, I had to leave a stick of RAM out since it wouldn't fit. Oh, and I may or may not have accidentally dropped the processor that I didn't need to remove and had to put in another processor from another machine that was slightly slower. I carefully removed the Windows sticker from the old case and put it on the new case. So I got to work early on Monday and I plugged it in. A few hours later, I got called down to John's office and figured that I was in for it. The thing was even crappier than before, but in a different and not better container. But when I walked in, I saw that the intern was beaming, John was beaming, and the vice president was beaming. They thanked me for my hard work and gave me a $5 gift card for a coffee shop. And I'm honestly blown away by these people's stupidity. Yeah, that's honestly one of those situations where these people just wanted a shiny new box and they didn't actually know what they were looking for. Like seriously, these people are so dumb. They literally didn't realize that this computer was just as crappy as the other one, if not way worse based on what the original poster described. So good for you for getting one over on these people, because clearly they had no idea what they were talking about. Am I the jerk for forcing a woman to return the bag of cans that she stole out of the back of my truck, even though she was probably homeless and needed the money? Because after I told my friends about this situation, one of them freaked out on me about it. And now I'm starting to second guess if I did the right thing. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was out yesterday running errands, and I had a really big transparent bag of cans I was going to take to the bottle drop sitting in the bed of the truck. Well, I stopped to get lunch first, and when I came back out, the bags of cans were gone. So I drove towards the bottle drop, and sure enough, I saw a woman heading that way, lugging my bag of cans on the sidewalk. Well, I pulled over, and she clearly recognized my truck. I then accused her of stealing the cans from my truck, and she denied it. Well, that is until I said I was going to call the police, while also saying that the restaurant I was at likely caught her theft with their CCTV, so she can either admit that she stole them from me and return the cans, or I would call the cops. She then got angry and told me that money was tight right now, and it was just a bag of cans, but I told her that she didn't get to steal from me and play the victim, so it was either return the bag or I would call the cops. She tried to say the cops wouldn't care about a bag of cans, so I told her that we should find out. I was about to start dialing when she dropped the bag and then told me to go F myself. She walked away ranting and saying that I have no sympathy. I told my friends about this later, and one of their girlfriends absolutely went off on me. She went on a rant about how I didn't know what kind of situation that woman might have been in, and she could have been homeless for all I knew, so I should have just let her have the cans. We had a big argument and she left furious, and I was pretty sure I was in the right before, but now I don't know. So honestly, am I the jerk for what I did to this lady? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, maybe I'm alone on this part, but honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I do not believe that thievery is right, and that woman had no right taking those cans out of the back of your truck. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what she did was completely unacceptable. My middle school bully destroyed my self-confidence in a way that honestly devastated me. So I decided to get some revenge by literally turning the entire school against her in a way that lost her all of her friends, her status, and all of her popularity. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So my family moved to a new state when I was about to start middle school. It wasn't the first time that I had to start off a new year in a new school with none of my childhood friends, and it's never a fun experience, but this time was way different. This new school was a private school, and it was small, and we're talking like 3 kids in my entire grade small. I went to a public elementary school before this, and I was very much the tomboy in the all-boys friend group, with a couple of less girly girl friends who also preferred things like video games and cool bugs. I'd always been pretty selective about who I made friends with, and before, I had plenty of other kids in my grade to choose from, but not here, because in this school, it was just 2 other girls, and we'll call them Hannah and Jessica for the sake of the story. Now, these 2 seem like pretty typical girls to me, and I'd seen their type before in elementary school. Hannah came off as a standard popular girl, though without the clique due to the population shortage, with Jessica serving as a sort of like one-person clique or henchman. Mostly, Jessica was just quiet and went along with whatever Hannah did. Now, given a choice, I definitely wouldn't have been friends with either of them, not because I had anything against them, but I just prefer to hang out with other kids who share my same interests. But I really didn't have a choice here. We were stuck together all day, 5 days a week, and I had no extracurriculars or young neighbors to befriend, so I just tried to make the best out of it. When birthdays or sleepovers happened, it would be me, Hannah, and Jessica, and it wasn't awful or anything like that. I had fun doing the stuff they liked, and I did my best to engage them with more universal interests, like drawing or info dumping about fairies or mythology, stuff like that. So basically, I became the slightly awkward second member of Hannah's posse. Things were okay for the first 2 years. On the second year, another girl joined our grade, and honestly, it did feel like Hannah and Jessica preferred the new girl to me, but I didn't mind as much, since I started making friends with a couple of the boys in the grade above ours, and some of the girls in the grade below me. She ended up only staying for 1 year though, and the year she left is when things suddenly changed. I came back from summer break for that last year of middle school, expecting things to be par for the course. The private school only taught up to 8th grade, so my friends in the grade above were gone, but we still hung out outside of school cool, and I even started dating one of them, not to mention that I still had friends in the grade below me. I assumed Hannah, Jessica, and I would all still be on friendly terms, but this was not the case at all. Suddenly, Hannah was treating me like her mortal enemy. She only talked to me to make snide or belittling comments, and every time I raised my hand in class to voice a thought or ask a question, she would scoff and roll her eyes, acting like whatever I just said was the stupidest thing she'd ever heard, and just disagreeing with or even arguing with me against everything. At one point, she even started acting like I was diseased or something like that, going to ridiculous lengths to avoid getting close to me or even touching me. I was a very outspoken and engaged student, and I loved to ask questions and talk to my teachers to learn more and discuss my thoughts, but the way Hannah was treating me was so demoralizing. I had boy bullies in elementary school who would tease me for things like my speech impediment and for hanging out with other boys and including the special education kids at lunch and recess. I have ADHD, and I had a really strong response to being rejected, and that meant I usually responded to that kind of bullying with aggression, and I got in a lot of trouble for beating up any kid who tried to bully me or my friends. But this was different though. All the things that Hannah did were these small, subtle things that I just didn't know how to react to, but they slowly chipped away at my self-confidence until eventually I just stopped raising my hand in class. I stopped speaking up and voicing my thoughts and opinions. I completely clamped up and went from a bright and confident extrovert to an uncertain and reserved introvert. It's a shift that honestly to this day I have not recovered from. I mean, girl bullying is on a different level, but at least I have solace of knowing that I got her back pretty good. As this was going on for the first half of the year, I was getting closer with my friends in the grades below me. The school was still small but expanding, so the two grades below ours had maybe a couple dozen kids all together, and they were all pretty intermingled with friendships because everyone just had to hang out together regardless of age difference due to the size of the school. Everyone sat together at lunch and hung out during recess, though the 8th graders had always gotten the first pick of the outdoor picnic tables when the weather was nice. And that's where Hannah and Jessica always sat, and whatever other kids felt like sitting outside that day would hang out with them. As time went on though, the other kids started noticing the way that Hannah was treating me. It was pretty blatant, at least after she started acting like I was some kind of leper. Hannah had never made much of an effort to really engage with the kids in the lower grades, usually just treating them more like an audience to her stunted popular girl aspirations, and more the other kids in school started being turned off by her. I was so demoralized and silenced by Hannah that it took me a while to even realize that the other kids disliked her, and they were rallying around me. By that time, we were in the last quarter of school, and being surrounded by friends and people who agreed that Hannah was being horrible to me started to restore a little bit of my confidence, and it was then that I started to act. For the rest of the year, I started to be more vocal about all the things Hannah had said and done to me. I would tell my friends while they were hanging out with their friends, until the whole school wasn't just a bit put off by her. They knew just how much of an awful, pointless, mean girl she was being, and they were all fully against her. No one in the lower grades would talk to Hannah or Jessica anymore, and no one would hang out with them or sit with them at lunch, while I was always welcomed and surrounded by friends. One last detail about this school is that since it only went up to 8th grade, it made middle school graduation a much bigger deal than most other schools seemed to. There were plans to rent out a small venue with flowers and snacks and have a little party afterwards. And since it was just the 3 of us graduating that year, it was going to be pretty intimate and personalized to the 3 of us. Our families were all very involved in the planning, and we got dresses to wear under our little robes and fancy graduation pictures taken beforehand and everything. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the year, basically the entire school had fully turned against Hannah, and Hannah and Jessica eventually just sat alone together during lunch and recess at the picnic tables because everyone refused to hang out with them. Now, Jessica had always gone along with Hannah with everything from day one, and even when we were friendly for the first couple of years, we had never talked a ton because she was mostly just very quiet. But that day, I came out of the lunchroom while Hannah was getting her food, and I sat down with Jessica. I said hi to her and I asked her how she was, and she was maybe a little weirded out and standoffish, but she just shrugged and said that she was fine. I told her how I know her and Hannah had been sitting alone, and I mentioned to her how mean Hannah had been to me, and how she wasn't really very nice to Jessica either, how Hannah always got things her way, and how she spoke for and over Jessica a lot of the time. Finally, I offered that if she wanted to, she could come and sit with me and my friends, that she deserved better friends, and that we would all be happy to have her. By the time Hannah got outside to the picnic tables, Jessica was gone, sitting inside with a table full of kids ready to welcome her and treat her like a friend and not like a henchman. I heard it secondhand from some other kids that Hannah apparently called her mom in tears, begging her to come and pick her up from school. She wasn't in class that afternoon, and I literally never even saw her ever again. She never came back to school, and she didn't show up to graduation, so it was just me and Jessica and our families there, with a third too many seats and snacks. max. I ended up going to boarding school for my first year of high school, so I lost touch with Jessica, but I made some incredible lifelong friends there who helped me open back up and realize a lot of my passions. I still second guess myself a lot about speaking up, and I still have worries about coming off as stupid whenever I open my mouth, or people not caring about what I say. But knowing I ruined Hannah's graduation and that I got her back for what she did to me, at the very least gives me a little bit of sweet satisfaction. Okay, as someone who got bullied a lot in this exact same manner, where it's really subtle and you can never pinpoint an incident or something like that, I really love this story and I love the outcome. Because seriously, Hannah in this story absolutely got exactly what she deserved. She lost everybody around her because of the way she's been treating people, and she finally realized that she was in the place of the people she was bullying. And that is so amazing to see, because in almost every situation, you never get to see this kind of revenge. You're never able to turn the dial the other way and turn this against the bully. It's usually the case where the bully gets away with it and nothing's ever done about it. And that, in my opinion, is so unbelievably unfair. Seriously, that really sucks, and I just can't stand when that happens. Because I don't know about you, but this can absolutely mess somebody up. And it also always happens in middle school. Seriously, what is with middle school? That age group, man, I'm telling you, people are so vicious at that age. So seriously, good for you for getting back at this bully, because the end result that she received, in my opinion, is exactly what she deserved, especially if she's going to be treating people in the way that she did. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled sister got really mad at our mother after she defended me from some creeps at a bank, because right now I'm incredibly frustrated with her and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened on a day I had to take my truck back to the mechanic because it was running like crap. My former best friend was with me, and we decided to take a walk because the lobby at the mechanic shop was full with no seats available. While out walking along the sidewalk, we ran into a guy that was wearing a hood and had a black eye, and he was begging me for a lighter while holding half a cigarette. I told him I don't smoke, but he wasn't convinced and just kept asking me. Then he asked if there was some place he could get a lighter or matches for free. I pointed and suggested some place random for him to go, and then I just kept walking, but the guy kept walking ahead of us and repeatedly pointed at me while talking as if he was having a conversation with someone who wasn't there. Then he disappeared behind a building somewhere. My friend and I then went into a discount department store, and then by chance we ran into my mother. So we helped her out with her groceries and she gave us a ride. But her next stop was the bank, so we just waited in the car. I was looking at prices for car parts on my phone when suddenly there was a knock at my window. And when I looked up, it was the same guy from earlier. And this time he was accompanied by another guy who was sticking his head up against the driver's side window and asking for a ride. The guy was carrying an 18-pack of beer and saying that he'd give me 2 in exchange for a ride. But I was repeatedly telling him that it was not my car and not my decision. Now, I'm a fairly big guy, but I'm not super confrontational in situations like this. And I was just trying to get them to go away. Then suddenly, my mother appeared at the doors of the bank, yelling at them to get away from her car and to get away from her kids. The guy with the black eye started yelling at her, but she again told them to leave. But the guy was screaming at her like an angry 14-year-old, yelling that he didn't care. But my mother in turn repeatedly told him to shut up. All the while, the guy with a case of beer was trying to get the one with the black eye to stop it. And finally, after some time, they got him to start walking away. But he kept turning around to yell at my mother some more until he was finally across the street. The 2 guys disappeared behind some buildings and were eventually gone. I was so proud of my mother that day. She was 56 years old and she still went absolutely mama bear. But you know who wasn't happy about it? My sister, who looks for absolutely any excuse to blame our mother for anything. As soon as my sister found out, she started ranting about how our mother made a scene in public and was acting completely unhinged. I pointed out to my sister that if it had been her kids, she would have done the exact same thing. And while she denied this, I know it's true. My sister is no stranger to making scenes in public, especially when she's intoxicated, which was pretty much all the time. I mean, she's the one who's actually unhinged and has essentially lost all of her friends in the past 3 years because of it. In fact, she was so toxic, we had to evict her in late 2023. Anytime the incident where our mother scared off those creeps was even mentioned around my sister, she would go off and act like what our mother did was completely wrong, and she was wrong for even doing it in the first place. But not only is my sister a hypocrite, she was only doing that because it doesn't really matter what our mother does. She will find something negative about it, and then blow it out of proportion. She tried to make our mother the villain so she could lie to herself and think that she's not a bad person. But I've got news for you, sister. You are a bad person. A very bad person. The last time I saw my sister was a couple of weeks ago, and I kicked her off the property because she is not allowed to be here. She screamed at me for choosing our mother over her and said, "I hope she was worth it to you." And then she swore swore at me again as she drove off. But honestly, I'm still proud of my mother for the way she defended me, because that situation was incredibly scary. Yeah, your sister is super weird. It sounds like she just doesn't like your mom for some dumb reason, and she's trying to find any reason possible to be like, oh yeah, look how bad of a person she is. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what's going on here. The sister is projecting her own weird insecurities onto the situation and trying to make the mom out to be a villain, when in reality, the sister is the bad person altogether. So yeah, I definitely believe the original poster when they say that their sister sucks, and I think you have a good mom who's willing to defend you in weird situations. Because honestly, what you dealt with that guy was really weird, and I would not want to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for taking an Uber home instead of sitting on a man's lap for over an hour and a half traveling back from the beach with friends? Because right now, my friend is calling me a massive jerk and that I ditched everybody instead of just going along with it. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my best friend, who we will call Sarah, recently got a new boyfriend who we will call James, and she is over the moon into him. Sarah is also one of the very few people that I hang out with. She recently met James's friend group, a group of guys, and they invited her to go on a beach trip with them. Sarah begged me to go with them and kept insisting I join even when I declined the offer about 4 times. But eventually, I just agreed to go to get her off my back about being sad and alone. Now, I was told that I would have a ride. Sarah and I were the last to be picked up, and when they pulled up, there were 4 guys in a 5-passenger car. Well, I see this as my way out, and I say, oh, well, it looks like there isn't enough room for the both of us. You can go enjoy the beach with your boyfriend. I don't mind staying behind. Sarah tells me that it isn't a big deal if she sits on James's lap to make it work, and immediately I feel on edge. It turns out James was the one driving and said he wouldn't trust anybody else to drive his car. He told me that I would be the one sitting on someone's lap because there's no way he would let Sarah do that. But the thing is, I don't know these guys at all. I pull Sarah aside and I tell her that I'm not comfortable, thinking that she would help me out or something like that. Instead, she encourages me, saying that she thinks I would have fun and maybe even get a date. She is so into James and has been talking about this trip nonstop for over a week. So I decided to just do it to make her happy. 2 of the 3 guys offer up their laps, and I just picked the guy with the most legroom. We drive about 45 minutes from the nearest beach, so I really thought it wouldn't be too bad, except that I was told on the drive that we were actually going to a beach an hour and a half away instead. Well, my mood just became more and more sour. I never once relaxed, and eventually I find myself quietly fuming once my emotions set in. The boys that I'm squeezed into the back with just talk around me, physically leaning over me constantly and brushing up against me. Once we get to the beach, we set up and I finally find a moment to relax. I eat a sandwich I packed and I read a book, while Sarah and James are lovey-dovey and the guys mess around in the ocean. I was asked twice about why I only packed a sandwich for myself, and this was not said in a joking manner either. I mean, not once had I been asked to bring a single thing. When it came time to part where everyone was getting in the car, I just told James and Sarah that I had called an Uber to pick me up because I didn't want to sit on anyone's lap for an hour and a half. Sarah tried to argue, but my ride showed up and I just left. I then got a call from Sarah a few hours later. She called me a bad friend for ditching everybody. When I told her how the whole day was making me feel like crap, she told me I was being selfish and that I had been acting like a jerk all day. Now, I did not deserve that, but I am also pretty paranoid that I did something wrong. So truly, am I the jerk for taking an Uber home? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk at all. Sarah sucks as a friend. I'm gonna say that outright because that is so unbelievably toxic. Like literally, she made you sit on a stranger's lap for an hour and a half? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't know about you, but that would make me incredibly uncomfortable, especially with everyone in the back just talking around me and brushing up against me. Like, I'm sorry, but that's really creepy and weird. And I can totally understand why you got in the car in the first place. Like, you're just trying to be a good friend and you're trying to make Sarah happy and be like, okay, it's not gonna be like that long, right? But for her to be like, oh yeah, we're going an hour and a half away, strap in. It's like, dude, are you kidding me right now? I'm sitting on a guy's lap that I don't even know. I don't want to be here. This is weird. Not to mention incredibly dangerous. Like, why would anybody advocate for you to sit on someone's lap like that and pressure you into that knowing that it's not safe? Like, what are we doing right now? And then for Sarah to come back and be like, you are so selfish. You're a bad friend. I can't believe you. You ditched all of us. And it's like, dude, no, I didn't ditch anybody. You literally put my life in danger to sit on someone's stupid lap saying, oh, you never know, you could get a date out of it. Like, seriously, Sarah's a moron. Like, are you kidding? So no, you're not the jerk. This is so weird of Sarah to ask of you. And the fact that she got offended over this and is somehow upset because you took a stand, like that, in my opinion, shows the real person that Sarah truly is. An entitled worker at a UPS store refuses to allow me to return my Amazon product while also claiming that it'll be $20 for a box, despite the fact that everybody told me it would be free. So I decide to maliciously comply by literally putting together a box with some box cutters and some painter's tape tape in such a way that would force this lady to repackage it and retape it in the way that she should have done in the first place. Here's what happened. Okay, so I ordered a faulty walking treadmill from Amazon that had a broken 3-prong plug. When I contacted Amazon, they told me I was past the return window and that I had to contact the manufacturer. Mind you, I was only 2 days past the return window, and I kindly asked to speak to a supervisor to see if a one-time exception could be made, as I am a Prime customer. And doesn't Amazon pride itself on customer service? So after Amazon refused to return the item, I contacted the manufacturer. Well, they also gave me the runaround and did not want to replace it either. So I contacted Amazon again, and I explained the situation to them, and now magically, I'm offered a one-time exception, and they appreciate my business so much, and they are so thankful for me being a Prime customer. Now, Amazon told me to take it to any UPS store, and they would package and return it for me for free. This was also confirmed via telephone with UPS. Now, for those wondering, I opened this package in February soon after I opened it, and I just moved it and threw away all the boxes and everything after cleanup. I get to the UPS store, and I lug this 50-pound contraption to the front desk, and I hand them a return label. The lady immediately looks at me and tells me I need a box, but I politely explained to her that I was informed by both Amazon and UPS that the return packaging is free. The woman then tells me at least 5 times that no, it is not, and that I need a box. For reference, I'm a college student who has 31 cents to my name. She then tells me that the box is $20, but I just spent my last $30 on medication, so I do not have $20. And I was told by multiple people that this was free of charge. She then rudely and loudly tells me that I need a box and that this is the policy, completely embarrassing me in front of multiple customers. And it's like, okay, fine. You want a box? You're gonna get a box. A UPS driver then tells me he will borrow some tape from the store and a box cutter and will help me tape up some boxes to return it. Now at this point, he goes back into the store and asks for tape to help me, and the lady at the counter tells him no, which is honestly not that big of a surprise considering the lady at the front desk. So I go outside to the dumpster and proceed to tape up multiple boxes with the help of the kind UPS driver and get some painter's tape from a nearby Little Caesars and somehow get it into the box. And trust me when I say this, even though I got it in a box, or what you would call a box, they absolutely will have to repackage it and retape it because what I gave them was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, this is one of those scenarios where they absolutely are at fault, and that lady behind the front desk should be fired. Seriously, this is unacceptable, and I just can't believe that she's trying to be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be $20 for a box. It's like, no, it's not. Everybody said it's free. Sorry, but I'm not gonna pay you $20 for something that's free. I quite literally cannot stand people who don't want to do their job and then somehow shift the burden of doing their job onto the customer. That is honestly so obnoxious, and I cannot stand that. Like seriously, get a life and get another job if you hate it that much. But don't put that responsibility on my shoulders just because you're too lazy. And the Karen behind the desk in this story absolutely was just that. She was lazy and she didn't want to do what she needed to do. So yeah, I love this malicious compliance because now, whether she likes it or not, she's gonna have to repackage it and retape it whether she likes it or not. My entitled aunt is demanding that I move back home and take care of my grandmother full-time as her caregiver, stating that because I'm not working, this would be the perfect opportunity to prove that I care. But despite the fact that my grandmother was a monster growing up, I truly don't want to uproot my entire life just to take care of someone who has treated me so poorly. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my grandparents played a huge role in raising my brother and myself, as well as my aunt's 2 kids. Between her kids, me and my brother, my grandparents' house was a revolving door of children being dropped off while our parents worked full-time. As the oldest, I was expected to take on the most responsibility and became my grandmother's helper. My grandparents were awful verbally and emotionally, and they literally had no boundaries. I spent significant time in their home, constantly being ordered around and reminded how much I owed them. They lived in the house directly behind my dad's, so there was no escaping it. If they needed something, they called. If they wanted something done, I was expected to do it. At the age of 22, I was exhausted and I moved away. I've lived away from home for 8 years now, and recently I've been hearing about my grandparents' declining health. I was told my grandmother has dementia and my grandfather has limited time, but when I speak with them, they seem completely lucid. I've attempted to clarify their condition with my dad and my brother, but I've been met with vague, passive-aggressive answers. Anyways, I was recently laid off and called my aunt, as she has a strong professional network, and I was seeing if there's any other job openings that she might know about. Well, her reply was really harsh. She said to me, "I've got too much crap going on here to worry about you." But I didn't ask her to worry about me. I asked if she knew anyone was hiring. She then revealed the likely true reason she answered my call. My grandfather is in assisted living, and she, my brother, and my cousins are all juggling work and caregiving shifts for my grandmother, who apparently can't be left alone in the home anymore. And this was all news to me. She praised my brother and her daughter, comparing me negatively to them as always, then demanded I move home and become my grandmother's full-time caregiver because I'm currently unemployed. She then said that I had to give some to get some. When I politely declined, she blamed my refusal on my mother not raising me right, despite my grandparents essentially raising all of us. For reference, my mother left when I was 6 years old, and my grandparents undermined both she and my dad completely. They controlled everything about my upbringing, so I was essentially raised by the same people who raised my aunt, and now I feel like my aunt is trying the same manipulation with me. When I pointed out that I have no medical training and suggested they hire a nurse, she just dismissed it, claiming that due to short staffing, hiring a nurse wasn't an option. But I know exactly what will happen if I agree. I'll be trapped there indefinitely, sacrificing my life while everyone else continues normally, and this is just a black hole that I refuse to enter. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to drop everything in my life, move back home and become my grandmother's unpaid caregiver, all because my aunt's demanding it out of me? Because right now I'm honestly so upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I think you would be a fool to go back there and be a full-time caregiver, because for starters, that's not your full-time employment, so how would you even begin to know how to take care of someone like that? Not to mention the fact that you wouldn't be paid, but in reality, they're only trying to get you to do it because they don't want to, and they're too cheap to be like, okay, you need assisted living or something like that. Like your aunt even said it, she's like, well, you're not working, you could be her full-time caregiver, go ahead. And it's like, dude, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to take care of someone who verbally and emotionally mistreated me and who had literally no boundaries my entire upbringing? You know, the same people who would use me and say, oh yeah, you're our helper and you need to do stuff if we say so. Like, I don't know about you, but I would absolutely move out as well and not go back for almost a decade if they did that to me. So the fact that your aunt's trying to pull that same stunt on you and pull you right back into a situation that you definitely don't want, in my opinion, is super toxic. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworkers absolutely make my life a living nightmare after they not only discredit me as a server, but also try to gang up on me the second I try to correct any of them. So I decided to get some petty revenge by quitting without any kind of notice just to mess up the schedule. Here's what happened. Okay, the best restaurants and coworkers I ever had came from when management had us all working as a team. Unfortunately, some places think waiting tables is an individual sport and only care about their own money, not realizing that working together makes all of you money. One night I got triple sat with 3 tables in my section after helping out my coworkers with everything, from running food to refilling drinks. As I was triple sat, no one helped me at all. Eventually, a server in the section next to mine took one of my tables, and it was honestly no big deal. The problem came when I took a table in her section since she took one of mine. She came over screaming at me how I stole one of her tables loudly in front of other coworkers, and I assumed it was for the theatrics of putting me in my place. When I kindly pointed out that she took one of my tables, and now I have a limited section, this server and a manager, who are all friends, kept telling me how I couldn't manage my section, so I lost a table. And it's like, well, maybe because I was triple sat while no one lifted a finger to help me out, and then uses this as some kind of opportunity to portray me as an awful server. Well, at that point, I mentally checked out. I ran my food, pretended to be busy, and selfishly only cared about myself. Oh, you're busy now and need ice? Well, too bad, so sad. You need to refill drinks? Sure, I'll get right on that. When I got home, I saw this manager put up the new schedule, and you know what? I purposefully quit without notice to intentionally mess up the schedule. The moral of the story is to treat everyone with respect and help your teammates. In this particular story, they didn't appreciate that I was being a good coworker. But if you treat me like crap, I won't only quit, but I'll also intentionally go out of my way to ensure that I don't help you at all. Okay, in my opinion, this is a great lesson for everybody to try and take in, because seriously, sometimes you have to look out for yourself. These coworkers and managers were not only super toxic for being like, oh, you can't handle your section by yourself, so I'm gonna take one of your tables, but also have the audacity to be like, oh, I can't believe you took one of mine, how dare you? And I think the original poster has it right. This was literally all just theatrical, and they're doing that just to make a scene. And it's like, seriously, come on, this is so stupid. What are we getting upset about? You're the one that's trying to discredit me as a server after you screw me out of getting anything done by triple seating me. And it's like, come on, man, that is so difficult. You quite literally sat everybody all at once, meaning that one of those tables is going to be waiting longer than the other ones. And so now the next, 2 hours are going to be me scrambling all over the place just to get stuff done? Like, that is so stupid, and it's something they did to the original poster. So truly, I don't blame you for getting revenge in this way, because these people truly suck. My entitled coworker stole my burger that I ordered from our restaurant and served it to a customer, saying that the customer comes first and that I can always get another one. And I'm honestly so blown away by this that I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I ordered a steak burger from my friend who works across the street from my restaurant. I trade in the discounted food that I get from work for drinks at the bar that he works at to save a few bucks. I see the burger come off the line in a to-go box, and I put it aside and go about my work as I still have tables. At one point, I see the downstairs chef come up looking frazzled. And for reference, this is a 2-story restaurant with a kitchen upstairs and downstairs. But I don't pay much attention to the chef, to be completely honest. Well, when I come back into the kitchen, I see that my burger is missing. I then ask my coworker about it, and he tells me that Jose, the chef, took it. At this point, I'm confused. I say to them, "What do you mean he took it?" He replies by saying, "Well, there was a problem downstairs and the kitchen had made a mistake and not made a burger that they needed. So he took yours and sold it to a customer because they had already closed the kitchen down there. I told him the burger was yours and he just said that the customer comes first." Apparently, the other managers knew about the problem, and after he stole my burger, he assured them, "Don't worry, I found one." Well, guess what? He didn't find one. He stole mine without saying a word, without asking, without explaining, and maybe pleading with me to help him. He just saw a burger in a to-go box and sold it to the guest. I mean, the ticket was gone, so I doubt he even knew the temperature. He just panicked and stole mine and served it and crossed his fingers that the temperature matched the one the guest ordered, I suppose. And this is wildly unprofessional. I've been cussed out by chefs, disrespected, and all kinds of garbage, but never have I had my food just yanked away from me to serve to a guest with zero remorse. So at the end of the day, my buddy didn't get a burger, and I had to pay full price for my drinks, making this entire situation absolutely ridiculous. Wow, what that chef did was so unbelievably toxic. Seriously, this has got to be like some kind of health hazard, right? He literally served a burger that was sitting solo in a to-go box, and then didn't even have the decency to replace it after he literally took someone else's food. Like, that's not only incredibly toxic, but so unsanitary. He doesn't know where that burger went. It could have been sitting there for who knows how long. Like, it probably wasn't even heated up properly. Like, what was this chef thinking? I know if I was in your shoes, I would report him immediately because this is really not okay. And you know what? The customer does not come first in this situation. If this guy really was thinking about the customer, he would have made something fresh instead of stealing from his coworkers. So yeah, I'm right there with the original poster because this is an incredibly awful situation. Am I the jerk for not showing up to my friend's birthday surprise for me, resulting in her literally acting like I don't exist? Because right now I'm incredibly hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I turned 21 last December, and one of my friends, let's call her AmITheA, wanted to celebrate. She didn't bring me a gift, which is fine. I wasn't expecting anything extravagant, but she did bring donuts. But unfortunately, the issue is how everything went down. That morning, she texted me, "Happy birthday, girl. You better not be late because I brought something for you." I told her, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, I might be running late." But after I said that, she started sending voicemails telling me to hurry up. And then a few minutes later, she sent a video of herself eating the donuts and said to me, "This is what you get for being late." I arrived at school 10 minutes late and went straight to the library. I was stressed about a huge exam and I needed time alone. My mental health was at an all-time low and I didn't feel like interacting with anyone. I figured that she would understand that, but I guess not. For context, my birthday is December 22nd, but she only brought me something on December 30th. I wasn't mad about it, but it is kind of ironic. The next day, she started avoiding me and giving me an attitude whenever she was forced to talk to me. And then things got really weird. One morning, she and my other friend, who we will call Jasmine, were together ordering coffee. I was reading nearby, not really paying attention, and AmITheA turned to me and said, "Hey, unknown, do you want something?" And I didn't realize she was talking to me at first, but when Jasmine tapped me and said, "Hey, do you want anything?" it finally hit me. She was deliberately refusing to say my name. Since then, she's been calling me unknown, making it clear that I'm dead to her. And the funniest part is that she's 22 and she's older than me. Like, girl, this isn't junior high. Acting this petty over donuts is ridiculous. At this point, I was genuinely confused. Did I really commit some unspeakable crime by prioritizing my exam over a surprise donut party that I never asked for? Eventually, I apologized and I explained that I'd been super stressed out and my mental health was a mess. I apologized to everyone in on the celebration and not just her. But even after that, she kept acting petty. Then one of AmITheA's friends pulled me aside and said, "By the way, AmITheA is still really mad at you. She had to fight to get those donuts for you because her grandpa drives her to university every day and he yelled at her for stopping to pick them up." And that's when I realized that this wasn't even about me. She was taking out her family frustrations on me over donuts. When her friend told me that, I felt bad. I knew AmITheA had a complicated home life, but I didn't realize she literally got yelled at for picking up donuts for me. I felt guilty, but at the same time, she could have communicated that herself. I didn't ask her to do this, and I definitely don't think it justifies ignoring me, giving me an attitude, and calling me unknown like I'm some NPC in her life. So honestly, am I the jerk for not showing up to my own little birthday birthday celebration? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't think Amelia is actually your friend. It sounds like this is someone who's masquerading as your friend, and the second you didn't give in to everything she was asking for, she suddenly dropped the act and showed her true colors. Like, this lady sounds like an awful person. Like, for starters, I don't know about you, but if I'm having a birthday celebration of some kind, I'm gonna make sure that I get it to them on the day of their birthday and not 8 days later and be like, I've got you a birthday present. It's like, dude, my birthday was 8 days ago, but thanks, I guess. And also, December 22nd kind of sounds like the time when like finals are going on, or there might be some kind of like final exam that's happening. And it's like, dude, how do you not know that people are stressed out? If I had a friend come up to me and be like, listen, my mental health is really bad. I'm stressed out because of a huge exam. I really just need time alone. Then I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do for you? I love and care about you, etc. But Amelia stands there and says, I can't believe that you inconvenience me like this. And those supposed friends coming over and being like, by the way, Amelia's still mad at you. They are just as bad, and they're literally just flying monkeys for Amelia. Like, seriously, you don't need any of these people. They all suck so much. And you can find better friends than this literally anywhere. Like, these people are seriously getting upset over a donut party that you never asked for. And this crazy idiot sits there and says, oh, this is what you get for being late, and eats all the donuts herself. Like, what? Could she not have just gotten it to you later and said, oh, sorry you couldn't make it, here you go? Like, what a weirdo. This is so strange to me. This is drama just for the sake of having drama, instead of actually having something go wrong and to be like, okay, no, this is a problem. So no, you're not the jerk, but honestly, I think you could do so much better than these people. You don't need these kind of supposed friends in your life, because it sounds like they're dragging you down, and honestly, you do not deserve that in the slightest. My new manager pisses the entire team off after she makes our lives a living nightmare. Here's what happened. So I used to be part of a tech support team. We worked from a call center to provide support during working hours for the software that our company sold. We were a pretty autonomous team. We worked pretty flexibly and always looked after each other if anyone had to stay late to sort issues out, and we always got our time back or paid for it. And it was usual that some of the team would come in late if caught on calls. In general, everyone communicated and the team functioned well, and the flexible attitude definitely helped clients. Well, that is until our new manager came in. She was a strict 9 to 5, nothing happens without my say kind of person, and it really didn't take long to piss people off. Oh, you worked an hour over helping a client? I don't care, you still need to be at your desk at 9 o'clock. You worked over your hours? Well, manage your time better, you're salaried after all. It didn't take long for it to start, and there wasn't any discussion between team members, but the response was clear. If you are not flexible, then neither are we. 5 p.m. rolled around and people would politely disconnect calls even if not resolved. Call resolution metrics tanked, and eventually her boss showed up to get the root cause of the issues. Eventually, during a team meeting, the grievances came out, and it was suggested that we go back to being flexible with our time. Now, thankfully, to her credit, she did listen and did mend some of the relationships that she harmed with her harsh start to the business. And eventually, she genuinely seemed like a good boss once she gave the team some trust and some space. Wow, this is the first time I've ever seen a manager actually see the error of their ways, especially one that's micromanaging everything around them. Because here's the thing, especially at like a call center or something like that, where you're interacting with customers on a daily basis, sometimes those phone calls can go over and it's just the way that it is. You can't always escape it, and sometimes it's inevitable. So the fact that this lady came in here and said, no, you need to be out of here by 5 o'clock, and was completely unmovable in this regard, like that in my opinion is so sketchy. That is really annoying, and honestly, I would hate that if I was in your shoes. But I seriously think it's a massive plot twist that she actually listened to everybody and saw the error of her ways. Because usually it's one of those things where it's like, oh no, they're gonna go down kicking and screaming. But thankfully, it sounds like you had a really good boss, because this kind of result definitely does not happen every day. Today, I found out that my best friend is dating my ex-fiance, and after storming out of her house after finding out about this information, my best friend is saying that I'm the jerk and that I overreacted. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. For some background information, my ex, who we will call Matt for the sake of the story, dated me for nearly 3 years. We lived together and he proposed to me 3 months before we separated. We were very serious, but our relationship had always been turbulent to say the least. We argued quite a lot, but we almost always made up within hours. The arguments could be extremely petty, sometimes over simple things like leaving the lights on or shoes being left out of place. Eventually, these constant arguments took their toll, and I just couldn't deal with waking up every morning feeling anxious about the shouting matches to come. So I ended the relationship. I was heartbroken, but I knew that for my own sanity, I was doing the right thing. When Matt and I would argue, I often reached out to my best friend. We'll call her Hannah for the sake of the story, and she would often assure me that he was being a jerk. Now, we had been friends for a very long time, maybe around 18 years. She's more like the sister I never had, and we tell each other almost everything. I didn't like it when she spoke negative about him, so I used to defend him, even when I was mad at him and was the one initially complaining. She often went too far, outright insulting him, calling him a man baby, among other things, and she openly admitted that she thought I could do better and that he was a waste of space, as he was often between jobs and I sometimes had to cover his share of the rent and bills. So as you can probably gather, Hannah was not Matt's biggest fan, not by a long shot. So imagine my surprise when, while casually offering to make me a cup of tea, she drops the bombshell that she and Matt are dating. I have never felt so betrayed in my entire life. I immediately started freaking out. I was crying, laughing at the absurdity of all of it. She was saying words, but I wasn't hearing them. I just had to get out of there, so I did. After a few hours, I had calmed down somewhat, and she had been calling my phone nonstop, but I had it on silent. I unmuted it and she called again, and I decided to answer. Well, she was not apologetic, not even in the slightest. Instead, she told me I was completely overreacting and that I shouldn't even be upset because I was the one who ended the relationship and the breakup was nearly a year ago. She said all I ever did was complain about him to her when we were together, so she didn't think I'd be bothered. In my mind, she is completely in the wrong here, but she's also not wrong that I was the one who broke up with him. She also isn't wrong that whenever I spoke about him, I didn't have nice things to say about him. So seriously, am I overreacting here? My feelings are valid, but maybe hers are too. I'm trying to see things from her perspective, but I'm just so hurt right now that I really don't know what to do. Wow, this is an awful friend. And trust me when I say this, she is not your friend. This Hannah lady clearly was like, oh yeah, finally you broke up with Matt. Time for me to step in and start dating him. She knew all of your insecurities about that man and everything you've ever complained about. She stood there and watched as your relationship fell apart, and she still felt like it was a good idea to say, oh, maybe I should date him. And that, in my opinion, is the mark of an awful friend. Like, why would you date a friend's ex-boyfriend? Seriously, that's a one-way ticket to losing a friend, especially when the breakup involved like you knowing everything about him. So truly, I don't think you're overreacting, and I think you have every right to be pissed off at Hannah, because what she's doing right now is super toxic, and in my opinion, there is absolutely no good excuse. Am I the jerk for accepting a friend's birthday celebration invite without first seeking approval from my roommate? Because right now, my roommate's very pissed off, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 29-year-old female, and I recently got a text from my friend Courtney inviting me to a small girl's birthday gathering at a winery. I immediately said I'd love to go, and I asked if she had invited Emily, who's my best friend and roommate as well. Courtney responded and said yes, but didn't expect Emily to come since it is at 11 o'clock in the morning. For reference, Emily is a night owl, and she typically sleeps until late in the afternoon. I told Courtney I was excited and I would mention it to Emily to try and get her to come along. Well, later on, when I asked Emily if she was excited for it, she got defensive. She said to me, I find it weird that you would accept the invite from my sister-in-law before knowing if I would even go. She also implied that me potentially going without her would make her look bad, and that me hanging out with her family is a boundary for her. For some context, I met Emily over a decade ago through her brother, and we've all been a part of the same friend group ever since, though obviously I'm closer to Emily since we're roomies. I was invited to Courtney's wedding, baby showers, birthdays, and we've done group trips together. I've always considered Courtney my friend, not just Emily's sister-in-law. While most of our hangouts have been in group settings, I don't think that means I can't have a friendship with Courtney on my own. Emily also hit me with this hypothetical. What if I hung out with your sister-in-law without you? To which I responded, well, have you considered her a friend for 10 plus years? She also admitted that she regrets not having a stronger relationship with Courtney, but I don't think that should affect my ability to go to her event. As a side note, Emily is notorious for not responding to messages about plans, so I can see why Courtney reached out to me directly. And it's not like Courtney invited me instead of Emily. She invited both of us, and I accepted like any adult would. I want to be respectful of Emily's feelings and boundaries, but I also feel like this is more about her own insecurities than me crossing some kind of boundary. But I also see how it could be different because we live together. So am I the jerk for accepting the invite without checking with Emily first? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. You are not the jerk here. Emily's being so weird. The only reason she doesn't want you to go is because this is going to make her look like an idiot. And trust me, in my opinion, I think Emily is the idiot here. She's trying to police who you can and can't spend time with, and it's like, wait a second, you guys are fully grown adults. Emily cannot boss you around, and there's no reason why you should have to listen to her. She can't gatekeep and exert control over this friendship while also trying to be like, this is my boundary and you can't cross it. It's like, dude, that's not a boundary. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't hold up in my opinion. You literally are doing nothing to Emily. You're spending time with people that just so happen to be related to Emily. And it's not like these are toxic people. Emily's the toxic one in my opinion. She hasn't made any effort to get to know Courtney better, and then she has the audacity to sit there and try and police who you can and can't see. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not gonna happen. I don't think so. So no, you're not the jerk. I think Emily's being really dumb, and in my opinion, I say you absolutely go to that birthday celebration, because no one, especially especially your roommate, has any say over what you can or cannot do. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.